What is happening, folks? Welcome to another special edition of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. We got a great guest on for you today. We're going to have a great discussion, so get ready. I think it's going to be a good day. We're going to have fun today. Number one, I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. Thank you guys for showing up. I know we're also streaming to Zach's audience, so thank you guys for tuning in and supporting Zach as well. Also down in the description are not only my links, but also Zach's links. If you want to give Zach a follow, make sure you go follow him over there. But we have a lot of good stuff going on in the world today, and all of this stuff seems to be coming together, and I don't know, it's all merging, both politics, war, discussions over Charlie, all of those things just seem to be, I don't know, just getting tangled up in society. So I think that's why some of this stuff is so important to make sure that we hash out. The other thing that I think is really important is, number one, we have midterms coming up. And I think what we need to start doing is trying to quit talking past each other for those of us that are on the conservative side and letting these smaller disagreements divide us, because we have a country to save. And we need to put some petty stuff aside. And if there's anything that Zach and I can do to hopefully lead by example on that front, I don't know. Hopefully we do that. All right. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome Zach to the show. Zach, thank you for coming on, man. How are you?
Gary, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. So if you will, just take a moment and just kind of introduce yourself to me and everybody at the show. Let them know who you are, what you're about, and we'll take it from there, man.
Sure. My name is Zach Costello. I describe myself as a Christian activist. I'm a husband and father of 5 with one on the way. Met my wife in high school. We've been together for more than half of our lives. Before I got involved in media, I had built a small business that I still own and operate here right outside of the DC area. I felt kind of the call to put myself and my voice out there. It's something that I've always wanted to do. So I started a YouTube channel probably, I don't know, about 3 years ago, and have since just kind of built it up. I just surpassed the 300,000 subscriber mark, which I'm very proud of. Did that last night. So yeah, here I am. So just, commenting on the political and cultural issues of the day from a Christian perspective. So that is what I'm doing, and that is who I am.
Awesome. So you just had a debate with Andrew Wilson, which, again, just like he said, and even coming on this show, we were talking about a little bit before the show. I've invited many people from your side of this discussion onto the show, and we get crickets just about every single time. And so I think it says a lot about your good faith going on and having a discussion, especially a freaking debate monster like Andrew Wilson. I don't care if you're debating whether or not you like ketchup. Chances are Andrew Wilson is going to, take you down. I don't care who it is. So I think it is very admirable that you were willing and courageous enough to go on there and talk about what you believed in. And, that's what we're going to do today. Less of a debate. You and I were having a good discussion before the show started. And that's really the tone that I'd like to keep with this. I think you and I probably agree on 98% of when it comes to politics, when it comes to a worldview. And for whatever reason, there's a big divide on this. And I want to make sure that we can kind of figure out, I want to know where you're coming from. And hopefully, you want to know where I'm coming from. And then we put aside some of the ad hominems that we all engage in one way or another. We start writing people off. We start trying to discredit people's character, things like that. And for my chat, you guys know the deal. We welcome disagreement. What we're not going to engage on in my chat is name calling or anything like that. So make sure you guys are respectful, and we'll kind of go from there. So, Zach, I don't even know where you'd like to start. We can kind of start wherever you want. My goal for this is to have a respectful, good faith discussion from the very beginning to the end. And you and I kind of got like 3 hours blocked off. I don't think that's even enough time. So maybe, we can already pre-plan this as an ongoing discussion, and new things come about that I think need to be discussed. So, I guess taking it from the beginning, where do you think that you disagree with me on when it comes to the overall Charlie Kirk assassination?
Well, I think probably our fundamental disagreement with regard to the Charlie Kirk assassination would be your diagnosis of Candace 19 that you seem to have caught with regard to your perspective on what Candace Owens is doing. So I think that's probably where our fundamental disagreement is. I think ultimately that what Candace Owens is doing is valuable to the Charlie Kirk investigation. And I understand the other side thinks that what she is doing is evil, which I do not think is fair and I do not agree with. And here's what I'll basically say. Ultimately, my opinion on the Charlie Kirk assassination case is that there is enough evidence, I'm going to use that term, evidence, proving reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson acted alone or even took the shot from the spot on the roof that the authorities are claiming that he did. And my coverage of the different arguments, leads, tips, reading of the charging documents, listening to the different statements and arguments made by people like Kash Patel, Governor Cox, Joe Kent recently, Candace Owens, who I mentioned, Gary Melton is one of those people, etc. And discerning those different theories is how I arrived at the perspective that I have, that there is reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson did not act alone, or he was not the shooter at all. And I'm not jumping to any conclusion regarding the assassination. I simply am discerning the truth, and I'm considering what I believe to be solid points and arguments, and I'm talking about what I believe to be true. I understand that there have been some bad arguments. There have been some theories put forward that I myself have dismissed in my own mind. I understand there are theories out there that others have dismissed. But I mean, in addition to all this, I mean, I'll say that I think ultimately I am working backwards from a skepticism or a distrust of the state and federal authorities. My opinion is that their record of incompetence and dishonesty causes them to not be trusted. And therefore, I support a decentralized open source investigation into the Charlie Kirk assassination to ensure that public pressure is applied, bad actors are exposed, so that we can know the full truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. And this doesn't end up like some JFK assassination case or conspiracy.
Sure. You covered a lot there. Fair enough. I think you did a good job kind of laying out your case and your perspective on this. Let's go back to the Candace 19 or Candace in general. Do you feel like slander is immoral and wrong?
Yes.
Do you feel like that false accusations is immoral and wrong?
I would say knowingly false accusations. If you know the accusations are false and you make them, then that would be wrong.
Can we establish
according to my own Christian faith? Yes.
And I think just from a logic perspective, you know, one of the things that the American society and principles that we've founded this country on is if you're going to make an accusation or even make a claim, it is the onus of the claimant and or accuser to provide the evidence of that claim.
Sure.
And I think that if you're going to make, especially if you're going to make an accusation of murder, conspiracy to murder, killing your husband, like you better have some really good evidence to present before you start insinuating, implying, or directly accusing someone of that. Do you agree with that?
I agree with your overall point, but I don't agree that Candace has accused Erika of murder.
Do you think that she's implied that Erika is murdered? Because here's the game, and this is one of the things that I find very frustrating and disingenuous with Candace specifically, is that she poses statements and then throws a question mark at the end of it. And I think that's disingenuous. I think that it is dishonest, because I can tell you right now, maybe you do, but all you got to do, and I don't know about you, but the rest of her audience, if you go to her comment section, They have come to the conclusion that Candace wants, and that is Erika is definitely involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. So when you continue to push that narrative, whether you ever make it a direct accusation or not, like, I feel like she's insulting my intelligence. And many people on your side is like, oh, well, we didn't actually claim that. No, you implied it 10,000 times. That's what you're doing. And you're implying that she is directly involved in his murder through multiple things. And I think if you're doing that, that is disgusting. I mean, I find it completely, because what if she's wrong? What if you're wrong? What you've done is taken someone that you've completely traumatized, someone that has lost their husband, and you've done this. You've damaged their reputation. You've damaged TPUSA, all without any evidence whatsoever, because there is no evidence. Can we agree that there's no evidence that Erika Kirk was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination?
All right. So what I want to highlight first with regard to, again, you covered a lot, so let me address a couple things that you said. So I want to say that in all fairness to Candace, and I understand that she has a number of people in her comment section who make crazy claims or, have certain opinions. I think you and I both know how social media can be with regard to people in your comment section and them making certain claims or saying crazy things. Like, that certainly can happen. Just because you have somebody commenting on your video or your work with their perspective doesn't mean that that is your perspective. So I don't think that's necessarily a fair critique. And to be fair to Candace, she initially was extremely gracious towards Erika Kirk. And in the months after Charlie was assassinated, it wasn't until Erika, when they sat down together, and Candace identified a couple things that Erika blatantly lied about to her face, that she started to then kind of turn this around and really start to look into what Erika is doing. But I would say that, I mean, you would have to agree that there's two things can be true at once. An individual like Erika can be a widow, and that something terrible could have happened to her husband, which is the case. But that does not excuse Erika for dishonesty or misleading or bad decision making, or for it also does not excuse her from any criticism now that she has entered the political and cultural arena and put herself as the face of this organization. Like that, I mean, those two things can be true at once.
Sure, but it's not about criticism. I think you would have to be like, any rational person would watch exactly what's going on with Candace, and you would be forced to conclude at least that Candace is implying, or, I mean, it's more than implying. I mean, it's just dishonest to say that she is not directing people to the conclusion that Erika is involved in Charlie Kirk's murder. And then going back for years and years trying to completely smear her family lineage, like going back. I mean, I don't even understand the relevance of that, saying that their grandparents were involved in this, her mother was involved in this, and then tying a bunch of things together. Like, if you're going to talk about Lori, who's dying, and you throw up 47, this picture of, 50 different LLCs. It's not that many, but you know what I mean. And then through that, come to the conclusion that there has to be some sort of money laundering. There has to be some sort of criminal behavior here without ever showing proof. And that's the thing that she does time and time again, is she points things out that on paper, they're not suspicious. They don't indicate criminality, but then she adds a lot of commentary and context to imply that. And then she moves to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. And then she takes all of these other items that actually don't correlate. She creates a correlation. And then what she'll do is she'll direct you to the conclusion. And I think that is clear misinformation. I think that's a very clear tactic of propaganda. And
yeah, I guess my perspective on it is that, with as far as steering people towards a conclusion, I'm not sure that she's done that. I mean, what Candace has done is she's gone through, and yes, she went back into Erika's past, and she's gone through a whole history of Erika Kirk, and then she's also uncovered certain what you can call irregularities or just basically straight up lies that Erika has told since Charlie Kirk passed away, and she has basically just put those out there and have been like what's going on? Like, why are you doing this? And there is a natural suspicion that arrives when someone is being dishonest or trying to mislead. And I think that, again, when you take one piece of small detail,
Mhm.
and you look at that single individual piece, like if you look at the individual piece of Erika not being honest about her dating history, and you just look at that on its own, you would be like, okay, there's obviously no evidence or proof that she had that her lying about her dating history has no correlation or proof to her being involved in Charlie's murder, for example, if that's what we're talking about. But when you take the fact that she lied about her dating history, when you take the fact that she lied about the text message thread to Glenn Beck of Charlie saying that they were going to kill him, and her telling Candace Owens that message was not on her phone, that was not an iMessage, and then we come to find out that that's actually not true, verified by other sources who say that no, that was an iMessage. But her telling Glenn Beck that Charlie never said that was not true.
But didn't she come back and correct the record?
She came back and corrected the record and said, "Oh, I didn't know that was that must have been a Telegram message, but it was not an iMessage." She came back and
she came back, corrected the record, and volunteered that information. So I think that would.
Did she volunteer that it was actually an iMessage that existed on Charlie's phone?
She corrected,
because I had not seen her come out and correct that. I saw her come out and say that it was a message sent via Telegram, but it was not something on her phone. And she said that to Glenn Beck because it was not something that she was saying that I did not see that on his phone, but we know that it was an iMessage.
Okay, so but can we agree that could have been a mistake and not a lie? I mean,
so you can look at these single individual details and you can say, okay, taking that by itself, that may have been a mistake. But it's like, how many mistakes are we going to excuse before it's like, hold on. Why? This is mistake after mistake after mistake. And when you do that, and again, you can make the argument that here's what it comes down to. You can make an incompetence argument regarding Erika. You could just make the argument. It's like, well, she continually makes these mistakes. It's a kind of an incompetence thing. Fine. You can make that argument. Then I continue with the argument that I don't think she should then be the CEO of Turning Point USA. I mean, I make that argument. I'm critical. I'm critical of that certain aspect. But then you can also, and then some people do jump to the conclusion that there are more malicious intentions involved. And again, when you take a number of different mistakes or lies, if you want to call it that, then you start to develop a circumstantial evidence web of someone who is just being dishonest. Ultimately, is what it comes down to.
No, I think what you can do is you can take you can go through and you can put someone under a microscope, any person, and you can go through and you can uncharitably characterize 1,000 different things that have no relevance. Not a single one of those have relevance to what's actually going on. And then you can create some sort of perspective of guilt or whatever else that's going on there. Because let me ask you this. Do you think that Erika Kirk was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination?
I don't know. I mean, I do you know for certain that she was not?
I would say that there is a lot of evidence against that. And what you would ask me to do is say, hey, you know what? Disregard all of this evidence and then just jump to some crazy conclusion because she didn't see an iPhone message, or your perspective is that she's lying about her dating history, which I think is also very subjective. And you're getting into the minutia of this, and what that is a character assassination that you're using to, again, point to some sort of guilt within something much more serious, and that is the death and the murder and the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
But
I
it's
would
not
say
it's not character assassination to find and identify a lie that a public figure told in public. Like that's not character assassination. So I don't agree that that's the case. But when it comes down to again, Candace is not calling, or nobody on our side, I guess you can say, is calling for Erika to is accusing Erika of being guilty of being involved in Charlie's murder. I think simply
I think you're being.
Can I just finish the point? Let me just finish the point.
Okay.
All that is being done is the identification of irregularities or behavior or dishonesty that I think the goal is just to be like, investigate this. Just investigate what's going on. Like, why the irregularities, why the inconsistencies, why the lies? Because you know this, Gary, like just because something bad happens to you doesn't excuse you from having to be honest. Like, you can tell the truth. You can be in touch with reality and also have a tragedy happen to you. Just because Charlie was killed and she is a widow, with regard to Erika Kirk, does not excuse her from not having to be honest in public, especially now that she's a public figure. So again, it's not a matter of people being like, because well, okay, there are some people that are making more aggressive claims, as you can say, with regard to what's going on with Erika.
Well, I mean, it's
I think ultimately the goal of our side, or at least my perspective, would be, it's like, well, maybe because of these inconsistencies, we should take this seriously as a part of this investigation. I think ultimately is the perspective that I have on that.
So because you feel like she's lying about certain items, that we should publicly investigate her for the death,
publicly,
and the murder, and the conspiracy of the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Well, I mean, no, I would want the investigative authorities to investigate fully into what's going on.
There's no evidence. I mean, there's zero evidence of Erika Kirk being involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There's zero evidence of TPUSA being involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They've looked at these things, and then you have
they though?
Hold on. I'll let you talk.
Have they actually looked into it? Have they actually investigated this?
Yes, they have. You better believe they have. And then you have all of this additional evidence that is exclusionary, that excludes them being guilty. You're sitting there saying that Tyler Robinson. Well, we need to establish what you believe of Tyler Robinson, but we have a huge amount.
You're getting too far ahead right now.
Hold on. No. There's a huge amount of evidence that points to the fact that Tyler Robinson is indeed guilty, and you'd have to jump through a lot of hoops to discount that evidence completely. And Candace has said that he wasn't even on the campus. And like, what do you think that Tyler Robinson's role in the assassination of Charlie Kirk was?
There is no evidence that Tyler Robinson was on that roof or on campus that day.
So there's no evidence that his fingerprints are up there. His DNA is up there. His DNA is on the gun.
His fingerprints are not up. His fingerprints are not on the roof. According to the charging documents, they're not.
We'll come back to that. So the charging documents do indicate that Tyler Robinson is the primary suspect.
The only DNA evidence that puts that has anything to do with Tyler Robinson being on the roof has to do with the screwdriver that is not a part of the charging documents.
Okay. I mean, there's going to be
DNA evidence that Tyler Robinson was on that roof does not exist.
Okay. Well, I don't know that it doesn't exist. It's just not in the charging documents. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be used for evidence. You understand that the investigation into Tyler Robinson and into the entire assassination of Charlie Kirk didn't end on, September 16th when the charging documents were actually put out.
Correct. I'm very much looking forward to the trial, and I'm glad that cameras are going to be in there, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to see it. According to the charging documents, they have video of whoever the individual was dressed in black actually getting onto the roof, going to the spot. There is no video evidence of the actual shot being fired from that location. But then the camera picks back up with the individual running off the roof. We've only been shown in public the individual running off the roof. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just show the whole thing.
Well,
If they're showing the end of it, I don't know why they just don't show the beginning of it. But
so what was the point of releasing the footage that they actually released?
I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, I do. So at the time when they released that footage, it was because they didn't know who the shooter was, and they released just enough footage to hopefully that somebody that knew who he was would identify him, which worked. As a matter of fact, I think they went through very carefully and made sure they selected footage that would not impact the case, because they have a constitutional duty to make sure they protect the evidence, not show the public. Suddenly we have this idea.
How would the
hold on.
How does that video help identify the suspect, though?
What's that?
How does that video help identify the suspect?
Well, according to the charging documents, and according to Candace, by the way, Candace confirmed this as well in one of her early episodes, that the mother actually identified Tyler Robinson from the footage. And then she showed that footage to the father. And then he's like, yes, that's us. That's my son. And then he called Tyler and then asked, hey, oh, and by the way, the picture of the rifle, that looks like our rifle. Tyler, where is that? Where is the rifle? So it was the parents that identified them. I'll tell you right now, if that was my son on the roof, just from gait, from general perspective, and it wasn't just the footage on the roof, it was also the footage in the stairways. Hey, that would look like my son. I'd be able to identify them, confirm or deny immediately whether or not that was my son. And you would be able to. And when you have parents that are like, that would naturally be in denial, like there's no way this, and they're like, hey, I think this is our son. And they immediately text him, call him, and ask him what's going on. And I think that's one of the most damning portions of this, is that they were involved in him turning himself in. They're the ones that turned himself in. And now we have a death penalty case that is set up against Tyler Robinson. And if this wasn't true, and you know as well as I do, if this wasn't true and my son is on this, basically getting ready to be sentenced to death potentially, and all of this evidence isn't true, there is nothing that would stop me from getting out in front of a camera and being like, that is not my son. These people are trying to railroad my kid into a death penalty, and all of this evidence is made up, I guess. And they're not doing that. I think that's one of the most compelling arguments of this entire thing, on top of the litany of evidence that we know that they have. And they clearly outline in the charging documents. So also in the charging documents, it says they do have them on camera, actually taking the shot. And look, I've been to UVU. There's 1,900 cameras plus out there. They have clear footage of him. They have cell phone location data that's going to put him on top of that roof. They have cell phone location data of the entire route to and from and everywhere else that he went. And then on top of that, we have multiple admissions of guilt through multiple text messages, Discord chats, a note underneath the computer. I mean, unless you're going to say that it's all made up, then how is he not guilty? How is he not on campus?
As I said, the initial perspective that I have and that I'm approaching this with is that I am distrustful of the state and the federal authorities to tell us the truth in this regard. So, my question, I'll address a couple of the things that you said.
Okay.
So with regard to Tyler Robinson's parents, there was interesting testimony that was shared by the account Brandy and Billy. I don't know if you saw this, of them interviewing Tyler Robinson's parents outside of the courtroom. They do not believe that Tyler Robinson carried this out. They interviewed Tyler Robinson's parents. They have a direct quote from Tyler Robinson's parents saying that they do not believe that Tyler Robinson did this.
That's not correct. They say family. They do not say parents.
We can look that up. We can look that up with regard to what Brandy and Billy found on their account,
where we start conflating and intentionally being deceptive about small terms that matter. There's a big I grant you that this 100% matters for sure. I would, if we need to check the source on it, for sure. I'm not trying to be deceptive or dishonest. That is what I remember, and I've read it a couple times, Brandy and Billy stating. So I would like to pull up that source. I mean, that would be an account. I mean, they've got a pretty decent sized following, who interviewed Tyler Robinson's parents, who
said to them that they don't believe Tyler Robinson did this. And I feel like that's a pretty important piece of information for us to have. They challenged Jack Posobiec. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, because someone he put out like, well, why don't you guys talk to Robinson's parents? Like, and I think Turning Point USA as an organization has made that statement a couple times. I think Blake Neff just made it the other day, and the account Brandy and Billy also replied to that one as well. And then what I'll simultaneously address was one of the was the second claim that you made there, about the different text messages that Tyler had sent to Lance. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical that those messages are real. And I don't think that you or your side has any proof that they are real, other than the fact that the state is telling us that they exist and that they're real. The state did not disclose to us the conversation that happened on Discord, where Tyler Robinson's tone is much different and playful right after the assassination, of him joking about a doppelganger that was trying to frame him. Mm-hmm. None of those were in the charging documents. The only message from the Discord chat that was in the charging documents is the one of him admitting in a very different tone that he was the one that took the shot, that he was basically the assassin, that he was the one who did it. Okay. But again, I understand those text messages are in the charging documents, but there's no timestamps. There's no evidence that those text messages are real.
Well, hold on. So again, one of the things that I did is I had Andrea Burkhart on our show, who is a criminal defense attorney. And I suggest that everybody watching this go watch that. And we went through the evidence from the point of a criminal defense attorney. And she explains how the evidence is received by the defense and basically how they're going to attempt to prosecute that evidence. So one of the things she was very clear about, she's like, hey, this is a list of evidence that they have. And you need to understand that all of this evidence is going to be given to the defense attorneys as well. And they're going to have an opportunity to go through and prosecute that evidence and determine. They're going to have their own forensic teams on that. They're going to be able to forensically analyze the phones. They're going to be doing all of those things. And she said, it's very important to understand that if it's in this charging document, like this is the evidence they had at the time with the initial to the probable cause. So they're going to have the physical evidence with this. And on top of that, the defense is going to have that. And they're going to be able to analyze all that stuff. And they're going to be able to go through. And if now we have the probable cause, understand, like, I'm sure many people have watched different court hearings and everything else. If they can go through and the defense can say, hey, probable cause wasn't there to begin with, they're going to have a real problem. The prosecuting attorney is going to have a real problem moving forward with this case. It's most likely going to be, or potentially could be, dismissed. So the evidence in this is not only, you can almost bet your bottom dollar on it, that this is real. It's going to be given to the defense attorneys. They're going to have a chance to validate that, and they'll come up with some sort of defense. But the idea that just because all of this damning evidence, and it's voluminous, as their own defense attorney said, and this is just what we know about. I mean, there is terabytes of data that's going to end up being very damning to Tyler Robinson. And so, good. Just say, hey,
I say good I say good because it is the burden of proof is on the state to prove that Tyler Robinson,
of course,
took this shot, and that he did not act with anybody else or coordinate with anybody else with regard to the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
So what evidence do you have that he was not involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Again, I've shared a couple things with regard to the reasonable doubt cast on Tyler Robinson acting as the lone shooter, or being even the shooter at all with regard to this assassination case. Um, let's just go back. I mean,
I just want to establish some things that we agree on.
Okay.
Do you feel he was actually in Orem that day?
Yes, I believe that he was in Orem and around the UVU campus that day.
Okay, so he's 3.5
hours. That's consistent with his sightings of his car, him walking around, video surveillance of him who I do believe is him walking around outside or in the neighborhoods around UVU, and I think the DNA, the fact that his DNA, I mean, his DNA on the rifle, along with others, also suggests that he was in or and around the UVU campus that day.
Okay.
I believe Tyler Robinson was involved in some way. I'll say that. I believe Tyler Robinson was involved in this assassination case. Yeah.
All right. So why was he there? Why was he there?
Well, ultimately, he was there either to take the shot and kill Charlie Kirk, or he was there to be some sort of diversion or patsy from the actual shooter. Ultimately, as I think, and that's my opinion. Those would be those two avenues would be my opinion as to why Tyler Robinson would have been there. And in addition to his gun being there, if it was not the one that was actually used in the assassination case, which I know you asked, like, what evidence do you have that Tyler Robinson did not take the shot with that weapon? We can start getting into the questions about that 30-06, the angle that shot would have been taken from, etc. That I think, again, certainly serves as evidence, contributing to this circumstantial evidence web that contributes to reasonable doubt with regard to Tyler Robinson being the one that took the shot from that location.
So why would Tyler Robinson be there to be the patsy? I mean, who do you think took the shot?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know, and neither do you. You have no evidence that Tyler Robinson actually took the shot, and he has not been convicted. We've not even seen a trial with regard to that.
I have evidence that he took the shot. We have his gun. He's there at that location. There's DNA on the rifle. There's DNA on the spent cartridge. The spent cartridge. That's a lot of evidence right there that he took the shot. There's DNA on the unspent cartridges, and there's DNA on a screwdriver that's on top of the roof that may or may not be in the charging documents. That doesn't mean that evidence doesn't exist. So there is.
How do you know that? How do you know the evidence of the screwdriver exists?
Because we know it's actually mentioned in other court documents. Jen, pull that up. But the other thing that I want to clarify right off the bat, going back to this, Jen, if you will. And by the way, anytime that you want something looked up too, Zach, if you want to ask Jen to look it up, feel free to do so. Jen, look up Billy and Brandy's post regarding
that. Yeah, did we get that answer?
Whether or not they clarify that it's their parents or the family, because there's a huge difference between the parents and the family. And I'm fairly certain, but I want to make sure that we get that on the record and clarify that. So there are additional court documents that do mention the screwdriver. And let me see.
My issue with your stance, Gary, is that you say that you have the evidence, but you're simply only relying on what the state and the authorities are telling you with regard to your evidence that exists.
You're right, because that evidence is going to have to be verified, and it's actually going to have to be shown. So that evidence, we have a process that's been going on for hundreds of years in this country, and it's not always perfect. But what we do is we know that if every attorney that I've talked to has said that, hey, if the evidence is in the charging documents, it's going to be presented. It's not only going to be presented to the defense attorneys, but it's also going to be presented to the jury. So for you to sit there and say that evidence doesn't exist, I think is ludicrous. That is.
Oh, I'm not. Okay. Does the evidence exist? Maybe, but we don't know. Neither you or I know this. As far as that evidence existing,
we know it because
question whether the evidence is legitimate.
Okay, well, the evidence is listed on the charging documents, and if
Right, but
the
some of the
evidence
things
is
that you
not
mentioned there,
there,
like the screwdriver, are not listed on the charging documents.
you're right, but I mean that's just one of many. We have a rifle that's listed on the charging documents. We have his DNA on the rifle. We have his DNA on the trigger, and we have DNA on the spent cartridge. I mean that is pretty damning to sit there, and then for you to say you don't have evidence that he took the shot. That is one of many evidence. And the other thing that we're going to actually see is, number one, we're going to see clear footage, and even in the charging documents, it clearly states that this person that they can see goes up to the rooftop, goes out of view because he goes over the retaining wall, and then actually reappears and then takes the shot at the time of the shot, and then actually exfiltrates after that the shot is taken. And that is on video. And we're going to see that clearly. They have that, but they're not going to present that to the public because that would be a violation of his constitutional rights. I mean, that's what, and this is the crazy thing to me. It's like everybody out there is like, well, they need to present the evidence to the public. I need to see this to believe that they got the right guy. And that's fine if you want to be, suspicious of the government. I'm always with you. I'm always skeptical of the government. But when we have an abundance of evidence that is the only clear, it's the only thing that matches with everything that took place. And then we say, no, I'm going to reject that. And I'm going to go with something else over here that has no evidence, that doesn't make sense, that makes this much more complicated. Like, I still don't understand the point of a patsy, because here's the thing: when we have a 140-yard shot and he's on location, 140-yard shot, I literally have a video of me doing that standing on a much smaller target. Like, there's nothing difficult about that. Shooting a rifle from the prone, a magnified optic from 140 yards. Like, how old is one of your sons or daughters, for instance? Do you have a kid that's around 6? I can take a 6-year-old kid.
My oldest is 12. I'm going to be careful as far as diverging information because I've had crazy people,
I'm with you.
Look me up and all that crap. So
I'm with you. All right. So I could take a 6-year-old kid and have them shoot 140 yards within 10 minutes.
And I understand that. I don't buy into the narrative that Tyler Robinson was incapable of taking that shot. That's not an argument that I buy
Why
into.
would they need somebody else to do it?
What do you mean? I'm sorry. Why would who need somebody else to do it?
You sat there and said that there's no evidence that Tyler Robinson took the shot. That's just demonstrably incorrect. But number 2, you said he's the patsy.
No. I said that there's no evidence that it was Tyler Robinson on the roof, and there's also evidence that puts doubt that the shot could have come from that location.
Okay. Fair enough. What would be the reason? Well, I don't. There's definitely not evidence that the shot came from that location. We can cover that.
I actually do want to go through that because I think that's where you and I think, like especially our early coverage on this, I think actually converges, and I think that would be an interesting part.
I'm happy. I would love to get into that, but real quick, what is the purpose of a patsy? Because if I am running an operation, and I don't care if we're talking about a military operation or whatever, the more people that I involve in an operation, the more vulnerable I am to failures, mishaps, and bad information or someone talking. Yeah. So what is the reason? If Tyler is involved in the assassination, why wouldn't I just have Tyler actually take the shot?
I mean, again, that's a good question. And here's what it comes down to. When it comes to, again, I'm not jumping to any conclusion.
No, you are. That's a hell of a
conclusion. No, I'm not.
Hold on. That is a hell of a jump to it's completely illogical to say, hey, this guy is on the ground.
To be skeptical about the narrative that we're being told?
Hold on. This guy is on the ground. We see him on multiple video clips. We see that he has his DNA on the rifle. He is 3.5 hours away from his house. He's just there, but he didn't take the shot. There's evidence that, there's DNA on the spent cartridge, but he didn't take the shot. And I'm just, with no evidence, I'm going to make up.
Where was the spent cartridge found? Do you know?
I'm going to make up the assertion that there was somebody else involved. What evidence do you have that somebody else was involved outside of Tyler Robinson?
Well,
like, where did you even get that conclusion?
With regard to this being bigger than just Tyler Robinson, I believe that there is evidence for that.
Okay, that's fine.
Do we,
Let's say it's bigger than Tyler Robinson, but where did this other person come from? Why is there another person? What evidence do you have that you say, hey, there is an additional person that's involved in this? From what you can see, can you confirm or deny that's Tyler Robinson from the video footage?
No, you cannot.
Okay, I agree with that. But what we do know is that his DNA is on the rifle. It's his rifle. He's 3.5 hours from home. Where in all of this did you just say, you know what, that's not him, I'm putting in another person that's involved in this conspiracy?
Because of what I think we can get into with regard to that weapon not being used in the assassination.
Well, let's
is
say
something that you doubted. You doubted this very early on. This was one of your original doubts with regard to the assassination case.
I'm happy to get into those. Let's say it wasn't the weapon that was actually used. Let's say a 223 rifle. Why would Tyler Robinson still not be the shooter?
Well, in that scenario, the gun then would not link to Tyler Robinson. Like the current gun links to Tyler Robinson.
Hold on. Let's say he used a different gun completely. He pre-positioned a gun that he wanted them to find. It was 30-06 over here somewhere else. And then he used a 223. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, if I'm going to, if I'm going to use two different guns, I'm going to make sure they're the same caliber so that they match up. That's what I'm going to do. But let's say he uses a 223, pre-positions another gun because he wants to throw off authorities. And we've never found this second weapon that's being used. That we've created a different person. Now we're creating a different weapon. So they've never found that. I don't understand, even if you throw into a different weapon, and I'm happy to get into the ballistics of all that, but why are we creating another person? Where does that come from? Like, what logic and evidence do you use to create a second person outside of Tyler Robinson? What logic and evidence do you use that excludes Tyler Robinson from actually taking the shot?
The logic and evidence that comes from, if Tyler Robinson didn't take the shot, and he couldn't have taken the shot from that angle, from that position, then it begs the question then where did the shot come from and who took the shot? I think that's ultimately where it comes from. And I think that's the question that's being asked.
You think there was another person at another location that took the shot from somewhere else? Is that what we're saying?
I don't, Gary, it's not a matter of what I think. It's a matter of there is reasonable doubt that Tyler Robinson was not the individual on that roof and that the shot may not have come from that location. Therefore, the natural conclusion would be, or the natural question would be, where did it come from? And then simply the open source investigation or the open source questioning or whatever you want to call it, the different theories that come about from it are okay. Then where did the shot come from? Who took it? This is the example of this is you know this because you covered it. Like one of the examples would be, we had early on the wound from Charlie's front looked like an exit wound. So there were many different theories coming about where that shot came from. So the range day bro did the whole video from behind saying that the shot came from behind and that was an exit wound. That was an interesting video. And I know that you covered it. So
I've never, hold on. I have never said and never ascribed to the idea that was an exit wound. So if that's what you're saying I said, you will not find that anywhere.
No. I'm saying that you covered it. So you understand the different perspectives and theories that are coming out with regard to, if this shot didn't occur from the front, where did it occur from? I'm using that as an example.
Let's go back to perspective and theories. Within a day or two of Charlie Kirk assassination, we came out with the perspective and theory that there was a palm gun involved. Do you think that there was a palm gun involved?
I've seen that theory out there. I don't know. I'm not fully convinced
of
it. I mean,
it's just dumb. Like there's number one, there's no muzzle flash coming from Rick's
from that side of the crowd.
There's no recoil. There's no way to aim that device. The amount of energy that is dispensed upon Charlie Kirk has no correlation with a palm gun. So that's dumb. The other thing they said that it was a camera gun. Do you think that there was a camera gun involved in this assassination? And there was two of them. One they said Andrew Faraci had it, and then the other camera gun that they tried to put into place was the one right behind Charlie, saying that was an exit wound, which is also stupid. It's clearly not an exit wound, and we can talk about why that is. But we have two camera guns. Do you think that Either one of those is plausible.
I mean, no, I actually don't. I mean, I guess my opinion on this is that the shot did come from the front, and the reason that I think that is because of a lot of the things that I think you and I can get into, and again, this has to do with our overlap early on with regard to, me watching guys like Dr. Chris Martenson, who disagrees with your perspective here. Following the guy, and watching the Range Day Bro video of that shot potentially coming from behind, which again, I arrived at the conclusion, at least my own opinion, was that I don't agree with that perspective and that video based on more clear evidence that came out from the assassination. The clear video of Charlie from kind of his right side shows pretty clearly that he was not shot from that angle that the Range Day Bro guy was talking about. So, but again,
hold on. We're making good progress here because we're hitting things that we agree on, and I want to establish some things that we agree on, and I think we're getting there. So the other thing that was said, that was the Bush gun. Do you remember that theory?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, anyone that's involved, that's interested in this, one of the most clarifying things for me ever, and I hope that people that are interested in this do this, and I hope you do too. I don't know, maybe we can plan a trip and go down there together. But when I actually went to UVU, some of these propositions became so clear because I was completely neutral, and I'm still neutral to the evidence. I'm going to go where the evidence. If new evidence comes out tomorrow that overrides, hold on. If new evidence comes out tomorrow that overrides, it's more compelling than the evidence that we have, I'm going to go with that because that's what logical people do. And we just don't make up conclusions based on a complete lack of evidence or anything else. So my point is that, like, if you go there and you look up where Charlie was to like a stone's throw away to where that bush is that you can clearly see, it, like the dimensions, the proportions of everything in person, everything is like 3 times closer than you realize. That's a much smaller space than what it looks like on television. And that's another real issue that I have with a lot of people supposedly investigating this. There's a lot of people making a lot of money on this, and they've never actually gone there. They never actually talked to eyewitnesses or done any real investigative work. Sitting in front of a camera and just waiting for tips to come in is not investigations by any definition under the sun. But I digress.
Well, so, Gary, don't make the Douglas Murray "you've never been" argument, though. Come on.
That's not what I'm saying at all. At all. That's not.
You can't say that people don't know what they're talking about because they've never been there. You've never been. Remember Douglas Murray? You've never been.
Doing, and I see what you're trying to say, but that is
never been to Israel, so you don't have any right to give an opinion about that.
Beneath you, it's a straw man argument. But if you were going to sit there and say, "I'm investigating all this stuff," and you don't actually go to the location when you can absolutely do that, that is dishonest, in my opinion. That's just where I'm. But hold on.
As far as I'll tell you this, I'm not an investigator. Like I'm literally a commentator, and I've been looking at these different arguments because I care about this. I care about what happened to Charlie Kirk. I do, and I want to know the truth about it. But I am covering different people's coverage, and I'm covering different investigations. Ultimately, is what I'm doing.
Think, hold on. Number one, is it hard to go to UVU?
No, it's not. Okay. No.
So also, do you think that you can change your perspective or potentially miss important details by not going to UVU?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think the two guys that I feel like have been very helpful with regard to going to UVU was you and Stephen Gardner, and the video footage that you guys, I think actually Ian Carroll went to UVU as well.
Yep.
If I remember correctly. But in any case, no, I mean, the footage that you went and got at UVU and Stephen Gardner, like I watched a lot of the Stephen Gardner one. It was very clear and actually very helpful. So was yours. Yours actually helped debunk, or I hate using that word debunk, but it helped check the box off of one of the theories or arguments that was made by Chris Martenson that video of him jumping off the roof, the person jumping off the roof, was AI. Yeah. I actually thought one of your most helpful things that you did there was you found that downslope, which kind of which showed that individual would have disappeared. So I thought that was actually really helpful, and I appreciated that. But no, I mean, I see the value in what you're talking about. I was, kind of just giving you a hard time in that, I feel like you're taking a shot at Candace there because she's never been to UVU.
I definitely was.
Yeah.
So
before you guys go on, I do have the video, and it was not their parents. It was family members.
So throw that up, Jen, just so we clarify I guess, and do you accept that, or do you want to see it? Zach?
I'd like to see it, but I'd also like to, I guess I'd like to clarify what family members they are, and I'd like to pull up the tweet as well.
Fair enough. Real quick though, just going back to what we're talking about and the things that we agree on. So we agree that the Bushman shooter didn't exist, even though that was pushed for weeks. We agree that the camera in the back and the camera gun in the front. We agree, hopefully we can agree, that there was no tunnels underneath Charlie that would be accessible to actually shoot Charlie from a tunnel. That was something that actually Candace Owens was talking about, the hatches. Do you agree with that is thoroughly debunked?
So I heard you say hatches. Sorry, I was trying to look up this Brandy and Billy tweet here, but
we got it right here. Oh, we got the video. All right, you know what? Let's play this video, and then we'll talk about the hatches, and we'll talk about all the other things that we agree on that we can say we're setting that off to the side. Those are things that we don't need to discuss or debate on those particular issues. Jen, go ahead and play that video for us. Is this like long? Okay, this is an hour-long video. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an hour-long video. Do you have a...
Try to find the tweet. Try to find the tweet that they have.
But if you look at the title too, just so you know.
Yeah, and if you can, off screen, if there's an area where they specifically say we're talking to the family and make clarification between the family and the parents, we can throw that back up.
You got it.
Yeah. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, I got you right here.
Can I present that?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is Jack. How do you pronounce his last name? You can Posobiec.
Yeah.
Said, I have a question for the people who don't think killed Tyler Robinson, and he makes the challenge to talk to his parents. And then, as Brandy and Billy says here, this is the tweet that I am referring to. We did ask them ourselves. Tyler Robinson's family does not think that he did this, and they said it to us face to face at the January 16th hearing. The narrative that you read online about his family turning him in is not true.
Okay,
we'll be continuing the rest of the hearings. So
it's not his parents.
Okay, but I guess I would say.
I mean,
we're both right though. But I would say we're both right because again, the narrative that you read online about his family turning him in is not true. So I think that point I made does hold.
Whoa! That's not a narrative online. That's a narrative. Two things that was presented by two people. Number one, that narrative was presented
in the charging documents.
It's what's that?
That narrative is from the charging documents. I think is that what you're
getting
at?
You know who else confirmed that narrative?
Who else confirmed the narrative that his family turned him in?
Yes.
Who?
Candace Owens.
Oh, Gary, no. I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
Hold on. No, I want to show you the proof of that.
Candace thinks that the sheriff individual
later.
Right?
Hold on.
She came out with this later.
I'm with you. All right. Let's talk about it, and we can discuss it.
Candace thinks the sheriff individual approached the family first.
I'm going to cover
right?
both sides of this argument.
Right.
I'm going to cover both sides of this and make sure that we give everybody the truth, and that there is, I'm not trying to present one argument or another. Let's watch this and let's talk about what she actually says here. Let's see here. Let me see where this is in the video. Here we go.
Everything the source has told.
All right.
Gary, was this video before or after she described the sheriff turning Tyler Robinson in and coming to the parents first?
Identified as the shooter. It's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media.
Hold on.
He does. So let's move on. All right. So the next example of a lie and deception is from episode 244. It aired September 29th. Let's play this.
Of most interest to me, what I've learned is that his father does does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been.
All right. So let's just stop it right there real quick. Can we agree that she presents no evidence that that's true?
That she spoke with that individual?
That she presents no evidence that she spoke with that individual, or that the father actually believes what she just posited there.
I mean, she is making a statement based on her sources, and you have to take her at her word there. Yeah.
Okay.
Telling us, remember, the media presented this amazing story. The father realized his son was guilty, so it goes, right? And then he phoned over a friend. That quote unquote family friend informed the family. It was that in-between person that informed the family that Tyler had been identified as the shooter. It's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented this amazing story.
All right, so who was this media that created this amazing story? So basically what she's saying here is it wasn't the parents that identified him. It was the family friend that said, hey, look, we've identified him. We think it's Tyler. He needs to turn himself in. But let's jump here to episode 237, September 17th. Just, I don't know. We're talking 12 days prior to this. And this is what Candace actually said to begin with.
I have a source, and everything the source has told me that has happened when we were lied to publicly has proven to be correct. So I am very inclined to believe this source on a couple of other things. And when I speak also to Lance's family, they are confirming what this source is telling me. So we're going to go through this.
All right. So she has a source that she has found extremely reliable. And on top of that, everything this source has said has been confirmed by other people. Let's see what the source actually has to say.
So they released the photo. And then we are told, as my source initially told me, that it was the mother who recognized Tyler, and she phones him up. Tyler says, Mom, I'm sick. She doesn't believe it. She loops in Dad. Okay.
All right. So that right there, she starts off confirming exactly what the charging documents say. And I also will point out, I want everybody to look at what she actually has here for the charging documents. This I also find extremely deceptive. Well, I think I even talk about this, and we might as well just play it.
Her own son. It was the parents that recognized her own son. And she didn't just loop in Dad. She showed the father, Matt Robinson, the surveillance footage of the suspect that the FBI released. And let's read the charging documents. This is the official charging documents. I have them right here.
I'm not even going to put you guys through that, but I do want to point out right here that Candace Owens, Zach, are these the charging documents? They're not.
I'm not sure what that is. I don't know. What is that?
What she's done is she's taking bullet points from the charging documents and she's presenting them. And what that allows her to do is she gets to reconfigure the picture that's being pushed. She has never once went through the charging documents with her audience. And I think that in of itself is a major omission of facts. And I point out later on in this video, you guys can go watch it, that she completely distorts even what takes place here. But right here, she has a source that she trusts that has been confirmed multiple times, confirm exactly what is stated in the charging documents. And then 12 days later says she wasn't the one confirming this story, this narrative, because she was the media that actually put this information out. She says, oh, it's the media telling us this lie. It's the same lie that not only did you state, but you also confirmed both through your source and the charging documents. You reinforced exactly what the charging document says. And then 12 days later, you completely changed the narrative and say it wasn't the mother. It wasn't the father that actually identified the source, identified Tyler Robinson from the video surveillance. And look, here's the crazy thing, Zach. Don't you think that when the prosecution gets these people on the stand and they're going to be referencing back to the actual charging documents, they're going to have them on the stand and say, hey, is it you, the mother? Did you identify the son? Yes, I did. Or to say no, I didn't do that. It was this family friend that called us up and said, hey, I think that's your son, which I think is ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous because if some family friend, if I'm looking at a video and I'm like, that's not my son. And then some family friend says, hey, I think this is your son. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not going to just go turn them in. I'm going to call the police like, hey, apparently there's some sort of suspicion that my son, that's not him. And I don't believe that's him. So this whole thing is clear deception, or we can't believe anything her sources say, because we have one source that she's confirmed multiple times. Hey, this person has told me the truth. Lance's family confirms the source and everything that they say as well. I use that to confirm the charging documents. And these charging documents are going to be brought up in court, because if they get somebody on the stand and suddenly the mother's like, I didn't say any of that stuff. Well, the charging documents go out the window, and it's very clear that the state is making stuff up.
Right.
And that's not going to happen.
Look, when it all comes down to it, I think that the point holds, though, in that the family of Tyler Robinson does not believe that he did this.
There's somebody in the family. I don't know what that means. Like, my kids haven't seen aunts that I have that, like, their family, they barely ever even seen my kids. I got some family that's never met my kids. My youngest kids are 12 and 16. And I bet they would say, I don't believe that that kid would do that. Just like Tyler's grandmother said early on, like, I have a hard time believing that he would do that. I bet the parents had a hard time believing that he would do that. But all of the evidence, just like if suddenly my kid did something horrific, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. But if the evidence said that he did it, I'd be like, yeah, I got to accept that. And then we have some third party family member, like, we don't even know how close to, they may be as close to Tyler Robinson as you. Like, no, I just reject that. Maybe it's somebody that believes like you do, but doesn't have any of the evidence. And like, hey, I'm a third cousin of Tyler Robinson, or I'm an aunt of Tyler Robinson. I haven't seen the facts, but you know what? I don't trust the government. So I'm going to reject the idea outright that Tyler Robinson did this in spite of the evidence and in spite of the fact that the parents clearly turned their kids in. According to the charging documents, not only did they believe it was their son, the evidence that they have the rifle out there and the evidence that he implies guilt. And then on top of that, text guilt, both in multiple sources. I mean, we have multiple admissions from Tyler Robinson that he committed this crime. And unless you're just going to say they're all fake, because if they are fake, the defense attorneys are going to be able to use forensic analysis of all of this data information and say, yep, it was all fake. And we're going to present it to the jury and say, this was fake. And we figured this out. They're going to have forensic analysis of his phone for locations. And if when Tyler Robinson has shown that he's on the roof, moving through Orem, going through UVU multiple times, like, but we can, if you don't believe, if you come
again,
to
but none of that exists though, Gary. Like, you're saying that all this stuff exists, but again, we have not been provided any of that evidence. So you're saying this based on a conversation that you had with an attorney about what they might bring. Sure. None of us know. We don't know that.
Okay.
So you're saying that they have all of this stuff, but that's all speculation.
We can. That is absolutely correct and fair. But what we do have is we have charging documents, and we can stick to the evidence of this. And like, just sticking to the evidence of this. Forget about all of the mountain of additional evidence that we're going to see and that they actually have. All of that evidence, just what we have here, it is the only logical assumption is that he is, what we have is like, unless you say this is fake, and I will tell you that I think that's an illogical assumption, because they have to provide what's in these charging documents to an attorney, to the jury, and that's how it's done. And unless you're going to say the defense attorneys are in on this, like, everybody's in on this, just creating evidence from whole cloth. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do.
No, but I think ultimately what got us started on this is the fact that we have, again, we have reason to doubt that
you have reason
charging documents state about what happened with Tyler Robinson turning himself in to his parents and what his parents actually believe.
What is the reason
not
to doubt
true?
That? What is the reason to doubt
that? The fact that we have and a reporter who was there on the scene talking to Tyler Robinson's family, who were in the courtroom that day, and it was only a limited number of family members in that courtroom. So with regard to who it actually was, Brandy and Billy aren't allowed to disclose that in public for privacy protection.
They could say
it could have been his parents. It could have been his parents.
By the way,
who was that?
don't you think there's a big difference? If people are perpetrating and perpetuating the idea that they talk to their parents, that's a big difference than a family member. And
it is
that's huge.
It is. So it is. And I think that it's a very important information. And truthfully, I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose what they actually found because of privacy protections, and I don't want to get you or I in trouble here. I don't want to approach that line, but maybe Brandy and Billy can come out at some point and clarify what specific family member they were talking to. I guess we have to leave it at, you and I have to leave it at this. We don't know exactly what family member, but I think that an important data point to take into this is that there is reason to believe that what the charging documents are stating about what Tyler Robinson's family thinks may not be true. That I think we have to take into consideration when it comes to all of this.
So
if they don't think he did it,
why would I take into consideration some random family member that I have no idea? Did we even see the interview? Like, we don't, this is the problem. Like, all this stuff, number one, it is like third-party information every single time. It is always obfuscated information. Like, we don't have, it's this nebulous, anonymous, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person. Like, it's not real evidence. There's nothing hard. It's people's words saying it. And then they're going to say, hey, there is reasonable doubt in this over something that we can't even confirm. This is why that no one trusts CNN or MSNBC or all of the mainstream media, because they would push narratives and they would back it by anonymous sources. And we were like, hey, you've been wrong time and time and time again. And clearly you're pushing a narrative, so we can't trust you. So we said, hey, you know what? We're going to reject the tactics of the mainstream media, and we're going to go over here to social media where it's 10 times worse, because that's what's happening here. Because when we're going back to all the things that we know were lies, can we agree that at least untrue? And I think some of the stuff was pushed intentionally to start causing confusion and chaos in people's minds. What we're talking about here is the camera guns. Can we agree that that's a lie, or at least demonstrably false?
The camera guns and a couple of the other items that you mentioned, I would agree. I don't ascribe to. I don't think that those happen.
We have palm guns. We have tunnels underneath Charlie. We have, I mean, we can talk about.
Yeah. Okay. And so can we just get to what I want to show you here? Can you present this on screen? What I just put on there. This is actually kind of pretty. This is a pretty important piece of bombshell information. This is from Brandy and Billy with regard to the individual they were talking to.
Okay, and that's predicated on their trust, but whether or not we should trust them, which I think there's good indication that we shouldn't. But regardless,
well,
we're taking their word at it. But anyways, so we've heard all this stuff from social media that all these things are lies, and conflate, confuse, and discredit this case against Tyler Robinson, which I don't understand. Like, most people are saying, and including to some extent, Candace Owens is saying he wasn't even on campus. All of those lies didn't come from the federal government. They came from social media. And as a matter of fact, social media, they've moved from one narrative to the next narrative to the next narrative. I don't believe the government. I won't take them at their face. I'm going to use evidence to confirm or deny this truth. The same thing that I'm going to approach social media. But what people are saying is like,
you are believing the government though, Gary.
Hold on. I am believing the government independently of the fact that the source of information came from the government. Zach, if you're putting out this information right here, and I'm like, hey, you know what? We have this piece of evidence, we have this piece of evidence, and it's presented and protected in a way that we know that the integrity of it, or have a reasonable assumption that the integrity of this evidence is real, then yeah, I'm going to go with this because I have the most amount of evidence. It fills in all the gaps. It makes sense. It doesn't make me create additional people that we don't have evidence of. It doesn't make me bring in other additional countries. It doesn't make me bring in all these bad actors, the French Foreign Legion, the U.S. military. It doesn't require any of that. And even there is no evidence of any of this, but we can say that there is evidence that we've seen because we've seen footage. All right, they're going to prove that that person that we see jumping on the roof is indeed Tyler Robinson through multiple different means. And then we have this evidence that we can say generally this is going to be true. Because if it's not true, the entire case falls apart. Because
exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. If the charging documents contradict themselves and they state things that are not true, the case will certainly fall apart. And that, I think, is something that we need to seriously take into consideration. But Gary, you covered a lot there, and I feel like I did let you talk for a long time. Can we at least bring this screenshot up that I have here? Oop. So this is a text message from Blake Bednars, who's watching the stream. He's watching the stream here, and I don't know if Brandy and Billy are either, but this is the text message. And I don't know if you guys can read that, but ultimately the question that's being posed to them is, did y'all hear from Tyler Robinson's parents say that they don't believe Tyler did it? Or what was it exactly when y'all were sitting in the courtroom? Brandy responds and says, we were sitting in the courtroom. A family member briefly spoke to us and told us that only 2% of what you hear in the media is true about Tyler, and they don't think he was capable of doing something like this. And then the clarifying question, was that family member sitting with Tyler's parents? And Brandy responds with, yeah, but we can't reveal who it was for their privacy. And the response was, of course, just fair to assume the same belief is shared by all of those family members. And then the answer to that was yeah, I would say so, according to what Brandy said there. That's the next message.
It's fair to assume. But, and this is the problem. It's like assume. Like everything that is presented by this side.
Gary, but you have to at least acknowledge that it's a data point to take into consideration when it comes to the overall narrative.
That's the difference here.
Log it in your mind and be like, all right, this is something we need to remain open-minded of with regard to the burden of proof being on the state to convict Tyler Robinson that he is the one who did this crime. And if the charging documents state that Tyler's parents think that he did it, but they do not in fact think that, that is a big deal when it comes to this Charlie Kirk assassination case.
I would agree, but we have zero evidence that that's true. Zero evidence. We have somebody sitting here saying, and even that's an assumption.
Somebody who was actually on site. So what you said is that if you want to know for yourself, go on site and find out what happened yourself. We have individuals that went to Provo, to the courtroom, sat next to his parents, got information from them, shared it, and you're going to sit there and say, okay, well, we can't take that into consideration. That's not fair. I'll turn around and be like, well, then I'm not going to take Gary's walkthrough of UVU into consideration when it comes down to all of this. Like,
I didn't say
we can only do so much as human beings, right? Like if somebody's doing something and they report on something, we have to do our best to discern whether it's true or false. But you know what I mean? Like if people of good faith are pursuing the truth, then I do think we have to take them seriously.
What we do to assume that something's true or false is we compare it to what the evidence actually is. Like Tyler Robinson, hold on. Tyler Robinson was there. Tyler Robinson's DNA is on the gun, isn't on the spent cartridge. Tyler Robinson, there's going to be many other data points that we got to take into consideration. Not all data points are evidence. Not everybody's opinion is evidence, even if it's a close family member. Like, that's not evidence. It's not true. Like, an opinion is not evidence.
Sure. If Tyler Robinson's father and mother do not think that if they do not think that he took the shot, or they don't think that he was the one that did it, like that would be pretty important information given what the charging documents say.
It is, but the only evidence that we have that says otherwise are statements that they put into this charging documents. That's the evidence that we have. Somebody just coming out, like, if you wrote down your will, and you said, hey, you know what? I want to send all my money to Gary. And then, you know what? At the end of the day, like, somebody's like, hey, no, I think that's not what he wanted. Okay, well, what do we have for evidence? We have evidence of a written document that has been sealed that generally is going to be true unless somebody just completely creates a will or whatever it is. Like, the idea that because somebody's opinion on the topic overrides this or casts doubt on this is that's not even logical, Zach.
Okay, sure. So Tyler Robinson's parents' opinion of what Tyler Robinson is capable of could be wrong.
The only evidence.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But the charging documents state that Tyler Robinson's parents, the charging documents, or the charging documents don't say this. What the charging documents say is that Tyler Robinson implied that he did it. It does not say that there was a full-blown confession from Tyler Robinson. It does not say that. It does not say that. And a lot of people on your side will say that Tyler Robinson confessed to doing it, and that's not true. Well, we don't have evidence that Tyler Robinson said that, because Gary, you don't have evidence that Tyler Robinson is the one that typed those messages to Lance Twiggs, allegedly. You also don't have any evidence that Tyler Robinson is the one that typed that message into Discord. You are taking the charging documents and what the federal authorities are saying, what the state authorities are saying as gospel to support your argument.
Because out of everybody out there, all these people with opinions, there's only one entity that is going to have to prove their case with the actual evidence, and that is the state of Utah.
The state, yeah. The burden of proof is on them, as we've discussed.
You can have whatever opinion that you want.
Yes,
and you can say, I don't trust that evidence, but that evidence is going to be presented.
It will be. Yes, it will be.
The only evidence, the only evidence that the only evidence that we have of what the parents' opinion is in this charging document. Some rando person, family member or not, or Brandy and Billy saying, oh, there's family members that disagree with that. Well, there's no accountability of that person.
I wouldn't discount them as just random people. I would say we have basically alternative media reporters and journalists, just like you are, right?
I would never present something without any evidence and just say, you need to take this as gospel. Well, I would say, hey, you know what? This, just so we're clear, and I do this all the time. I'm like, hey, there's people that I've talked to off the record. And one of the things I preface it with is like, just so you know, I understand I don't have evidence of this, so take it as hearsay, which we never hear any sort of qualifiers from any of these people. They're like, no, not only do they present opinion as fact, but they also present hogwash, just trash, like anonymous sources. We don't know how connected those anonymous sources, the credibility of those anonymous sources, or anybody else's. It's just, and then you're like, well, we got to take this into consideration because it's a data point. No, it's not. It's not even a data point we should consider because there's no evidence behind it. This is the data point that we should consider because we're going to have to see the evidence. They're going to have to prove this. You don't have to prove that they talked to anybody.
You don't think a reporter going to UVU and getting a statement from either the parents or somebody close to that know the parents' opinion on this matter and then reporting on it is not legitimate?
No, well, you can report on it, but if I wouldn't take that, if it was,
you wouldn't take it into consideration.
Hold on. If it was confirming what I believed, I still would take that as a grain of salt. I wouldn't even that's nothing. That's somebody's opinion. I don't give a shit about anybody's opinions. Like, you got to have evidence, and this is the problem. Is like when it comes just to clarify, you don't. Just to clarify, then you don't. What you're saying is you don't give a shit about the opinions of what Tyler Robinson's family thinks. No,
is that what you're saying? I mean, because that's
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah,
okay. That is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I don't care what they think unless they can present some sort of evidence.
Then why do you give a shit that Tyler Robinson's parents think that the photos of of him at UVU look like him? Because that's what got this whole thing started. That's what the charging documents say. So why do you give a shit about what their opinion is about what they think Tyler Robinson might look like at UVU?
So here's why. All right, because we have their stated opinion.
It's like funny. All of a sudden, you agree with their stated opinion when it's in the charging document.
You're doing a straw man argument here. That's not even the same.
Not a straw man argument. You literally just said you don't give a shit about their opinion, and their opinion is that the photo looks like Tyler Robinson. Their opinion doesn't
matter because they're not going to be held to account for that opinion. They're not going to have to get on the stand and confirm or deny that. The prosecution isn't going to have to prove or deny, or the defense is going to have to address their opinion. Their opinion will not be submitted as evidence.
Then what I don't want to hear from your side anymore is even Tyler Robinson's parents think he did it because we don't give a shit about what they think, right?
Do you not understand what I just said?
What I don't want to hear from your side is Tyler Robinson confessed that he did it, and I also don't want to hear from your side that that Tyler Robinson's mom thinks he did it either, because we don't give a shit about those things.
No, because Tyler Robinson's mom is actually going to be subpoenaed and have to be held account to her opinion.
And and when she is subpoenaed and when she testifies and it's on camera, the world will be watching. Absolutely. And mine and your conversation here will what is it in the gospel of or in Corinthians, where Paul's talking about how faith, hope, and love remain, and the greatest of these is love, because faith, once we are with God, once we fully realize the knowledge of being with God, faith is no longer needed. So this will be the case once Tyler Robinson's mother takes the stand and testifies under oath. then we'll know her opinion of whether or not it matters or not.
Here's where we can push. Here's where we can actually say it's reasonable to assume that he admitted to this crime. I want you to listen to this. This is charging document page number 7. As they discussed the situation, Robin implied that he was the shooter and stated he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained, there is too much evil and the guy, Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. That in of itself is an admission. Why did you do it? He was just too evil, which, by the way, corroborates the other text message that he says, there's too much evil in the world. I had to be the one to take Charlie Kirk out. That is an admission by every reasonable standard.
That is, as the charging documents state, it's implied. It is not a direct confession. It's implied.
If you went to your son and you said, hey, why'd you take another cookie? And he said, because I just wanted it, even though you told me not to take it. That is an admission. And any reasonable person, like, at least you can contest what the charging documents say, but don't sit here and be dishonest and say that's not an admission of guilt. That's under any standard.
As far as the prosecution goes, the burden of proof is on them to prove that Tyler Robinson is guilty. So they are going to do everything in their power in those charging documents to justify their position. Would you agree with that?
Because they're going to justify the position of the
They need to justify their position for the burden of proof, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So even in that statement, they're not saying that it's a direct confession. They're saying that it was implied that Tyler Robinson took the shot.
Listen to me.
And they're saying that it's also
people on the jury. It's guilty. Everyone is
innocent until proven guilty, right?
Until proven guilty, and then not guilty with reasonable doubt, right? Reasonable doubt. If I present to the jury, I say, hey, you know what? Tyler Robinson, when asked why he did it, he stated, there's just too much evil in the world. He was an evil guy. Every reasonable person on that jury would be like, that's an admission of guilt.
Again, these are what the charging documents state. We will, as you have said, there will be more evidence presented in the courtroom, and we will see what these individuals have to say when they are on the stand under oath. And that will be extremely, obviously important and interesting information for us to get.
Can we agree that if everything in the charging documents, let alone all the other evidence, let's just stick to the charging documents. If the evidence in the charging documents ends up being proven true, Tyler Robinson was the one that shot Charlie Kirk?
If the evidence in the charging documents ends up being 100% verified as true, and additional evidence is added, like you mentioned, like the screwdriver and the DNA on the roof, that's actually not in the charging documents. So the charging documents are actually missing important pieces of information that I think need to be verified and I mean, basically proven to us or proven to a jury to make sure that Tyler Robinson is actually convicted and that he did carry out this attack on Charlie Kirk and that he did so on his own and did not coordinate with any outside actors or forces.
A probable cause affidavit by its nature is going to be enough to charge, not necessarily convict. They're going to add additional evidence and charges.
Right.
Evidence with that.
I think you and I both agree. You asked me if only the charging documents are proven true. I mean, I would say that I think we need more than the charging documents to prove that it's true. Nothing in the charging documents puts puts Tyler Robinson on the roof. That's the problem with the charging documents.
So hold on.
Nothing in the charging documents proves to me that shot came from that 30-06 rifle, Gary.
Hold on. That's actually not true. What the charging documents state is that Tyler Robinson was seen on surveillance camera in multiple different areas. Now, we don't have that, but it states it. And
the charging documents state that Tyler Robinson was spotted in different surveillance areas, not out around the UVU campus. It does not say on UVU's campus. The only video evidence that says that an individual dressed in black that they think is Tyler Robinson. Was the individual walking up the stairs from the pedestrian walkway or the guest walkway or whatever you want to call it, jumping over the fence, bear crawling or army crawling to the spot.
Can we agree?
Then there's no footage of them, and then you have the spot of, and then there was the time of the shot that went out, and then you have the individual running off the roof.
So
none of that proves it's Tyler Robinson.
Hold on. So we know from the stills that we have additional video footage of Tyler Robinson going up the stairs. Can we agree on that?
No, I don't think, my opinion is that does not to me look like Tyler Robinson. I don't think it looks like Tyler Robinson.
That's not what I asked you, Zach. I didn't ask you if you think that's Tyler Robinson. What I said was, can we agree from the stills that there's additional footage of him going up the stairs? And I'm trying to think if there was any other stills, but from the stills, can we agree that there's additional footage of the person that goes up to the roof?
The stills I have a problem with. I need to see.
Fine. You have a problem with the documents. You have a problem with the evidence. That's fine. That's what I'm asking you.
You can't say that the stills don't provide you with anything. They were released by the FBI as to basically give identification, potential identification to the suspect. Zach,
that's fine. You don't think it looks like him. Is it reasonable to conclude that if we have a still frame from a video surveillance, we have a lot more video of that particular incident?
Oh, I would love to see the video, and I really hope that they have it, and I really hope it gets put out there. Yes, I would love to see that video.
It's going to get presented to a jury. It's not going to get put out to you. And if we get to see it,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I mean to the public. I mean to the jury. I mean in the courtroom. I'm not demanding that they send the video to me myself. When I say that, I just mean, I guess, just the general show it to us ultimately, which is the people, which would be the jury in this circumstance, right?
All right. So if we have additional footage that we know exists, it's reasonable to assume, based on that one screenshot, that there is a lot of additional video footage that exists of Tyler Robinson.
Of an individual that they are claiming to be Tyler Robinson. I think we got to be careful. I mean,
fair enough. Okay. So
because you don't know that's Tyler Robinson.
Fine.
Right. But if your opinion is that it's Tyler Robinson.
No, I will concede that we can't tell exactly who that is. Okay. I disagree, but that's fine. I'll concede that point. When we have additional footage of that exact same moment, and he's looking, and you can clearly see his face. If that happens, we know that that's what they're going to present because they have additional footage. And then we see that person that looks like Tyler Robinson. We're going to see him on other surveillance footage. We're going to see him go up to a similar person in the exact same outfit. Like you can sit there and say, well, it could be someone else in a same outfit that gets on the roof and jumps off the roof, but you have no evidence that there's anyone else. And there's no evidence that could even suggest that there's somebody else. We don't have DNA of anyone else or footage of anyone else or anything like that's what we got going on there.
Don't you think that it's irresponsible if there is legitimate irregularities and reasonable doubt about Tyler Robinson being the individual that was on the roof that took the shot from that 30-06 in that scenario? Do you think that it's irresponsible that if there are irregularities that suggest that it may not be Tyler Robinson, that it's completely irresponsible for us not to look into, consider, and discern what else could have happened on that day?
I agree with your statement. What I disagree with is that it's reasonable to even suggest that there was anybody else. Like you're just making that up. There's no evidence that suggests that there's anybody else.
Okay.
All of the evidence,
Gary, we live in the real and physical world, so that if Tyler Robinson was not the individual that took that shot, then what could have happened? Like if another person or individual didn't take the shot, then what? I don't know. So an animal emerged from the woods to take the shot. Like that's not a rational thought to have. The rational thought would be, okay, if Tyler Robinson didn't take the shot, then we need to look into who else might have taken the shot. So that's the point. That's where the someone else comes into play. And then there's other factors that contribute also to this someone else and to other people being there and being present on that specific day.
But it requires you to create people that we have no evidence that exists.
Gary, I do have the video queued up.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, let me remove his. There you go.
We know that an Egyptian plane landed in Provo, Utah 3 to 4 days prior to it and dumped military contractors into Provo that did not leave on said plane.
So their identities couldn't be figured out. But interestingly enough, someone on the prosecution team, Mr. Ryan McBride over here, I don't know if it was an accident, but he used the terms the father and the daughter when referring to them. And because of that, and also because of other information circulating around online, a lot of people have pieced together who this situation might be about. And if you're talking about a father and a daughter, so, I mean, there are multiple men, but then you have to look at who has a daughter that's around the age in college.
Yeah. Chad Grenander.
Yeah, and this
pause that
and testimony.
I don't even know where they're going with this, Zach, but can we agree that this is just guessing and speculation?
I believe I don't know what they're talking about here. I don't know the context of this video. I think ultimately, and the piece of evidence that I just shared with you was that they were talking to a family member who was adjacent to at the trial the parents of Tyler Robinson.
We've already established.
I don't know. I don't know what
that. All I'm saying is I don't even know where this is going. But can we just agree that they came up with a father and a daughter because somebody said it, and then they looked around the room and they found somebody that they think might fit that description?
So is what you're saying? Are you saying that you don't believe that Brandy or Billy talked to a family member at all?
I'm not talking about the family members or anything else. I'm talking about exactly what just happened there, and that is they came up with. I'm just pointing out the flaws in their logic to begin with, and then what they present as fact. I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, I guess what I just showed you is the fact that they were speaking with a legitimate family member. Like that's what I just that comes from that comes straight from Brandy's mouth.
That's the only piece of truth. I don't know that it's a legitimate family member. I don't. And I don't even know what legitimate family member means. Is that the mother's sister? Is that somebody that lives with them? Is that somebody that doesn't see them ever? I don't. Are they a cousin?
I just think ultimately the confirmation is that the family that was there while Tyler Robinson was whatever the name of the hearing was that he was at, the group of Tyler Robinson's family all share the opinion, which we don't care about, that
we don't.
Tyler Robinson did not or could not have carried this out.
I don't know if that opinion is true, and I don't know if that discussion ever happened. So yes, I don't care about it. There's no evidence.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's you can dismiss what you've been told and not take it into consideration all you want, but that's your opinion. My opinion is that I am going to take this into consideration, and it is going to be a data point that I'm going to consider with regard to this whole overall case. And I think that my position is more reasonable.
What I'm saying, if you put more weight in that drivel compared to,
I'm not saying more weight. I'm not claiming for more weight or how much that should be weighted. I'm just saying it should be taken into consideration. That's
what I'm saying is, if you think that has more weight than the charging documents, then that is not logical at all.
I'm not, again, I didn't claim that it had more weight than the charging documents. I think that what's interesting about this piece of information is that it contradicts what the charging documents are stating, in that Tyler Robinson's parents believe that he is the one that was the shooter or carried
All
this out. That's
So-
the important point.
Fair enough, but I just want to talk about the collective thing that we have going on here. This weird correlation of non-material elements of this. If I get 15 opinions that have no evidence supporting them that contradict these charging documents, that's 0 times 15, and you're willing to accept that. You're like, that's 15 opinions that contradict this, and I'm like, no, that's 0 evidence. I don't care if it's 100. I don't care if it's 1. A lie repeated many times is going to be believed, but 0 evidence times 50 times is still 0 evidence. And that's the thing. It's like, you're willing to take anybody's opinion. You're willing to do whatever and just like throw out the evidence.
That's not true, but that's not true. No,
Okay.
I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to
mischaracterize-
accept that I'm willing to take anybody's opinion. There are many opinions that have come out that I do not agree with and I do not accept, and I don't think that they're relevant.
Why
to
don't
this
you
case.
accept those opinions?
There are many things that I've dismissed with regard to this. We've talked about a couple of them. When Candace Owens, for example, said that somebody might have popped up from the hatch underneath, first of all, she was speculating. She was speculating about a possibility, which a lot of people on your side took as that was a theory that she was actually coming up with. It was speculation that she was almost spitballing. But in any case, that was a theory, I guess you can say, that was not relevant, that I considered irrelevant as a part of the overall assassination. We have the palm pistol, which I know that some people think could have been could have happened. We have the exploding mic theory, which I'm not convinced of. Like I'm not taking and accepting every single opinion that I've heard. Like I'm not going to accept that, and I don't think that's a fair characterization of what I'm talking. Excuse me, what I'm talking about
fair.
here.
If I mischaracterized you, that's fair. But here's my problem with Candace Owens, amongst others. If there's nothing wrong with speculating, nothing wrong with it, as long as you clarify that it's speculation. The problem is like if you sat in a court and the court was sitting there, hey, had Candace Owens on the stand and be like, if she said, hey, you know what? What if somebody popped up from these hatches? They'd be like, irrelevant. Like, strike that from the record. Like, if we're having a serious discussion and like facts matter, then we need to stick to the facts and the evidence. The more that we incorporate things that we cannot confirm or just opinion or fantasy or things that we make up in our mind, it confuses people. It casts doubt where there should not be doubt in certain areas, or it confirms things that should not be confirmed. Because what we need to do as people like you and I is we need to be very responsible and not put out things that are wrong. Or if we get things wrong, we come back and correct the record, and we shouldn't put out our opinions as fact, because that's what happens. And the biggest problem that I have with Candace is she puts out narrative after narrative after narrative, and most of those narratives are mutually exclusive. They never pan out to be true. Not a single piece of actual evidence of a single material claim is presented, but she just moves on to the next narrative, never readdressing this narrative and saying, hey, you know what? Based on this new narrative over here, I don't think those people that I was accusing of murder and their lives were destroyed and their reputations were destroyed, I don't think that they're actually guilty now. But she never does that because she doesn't care.
She has certainly gone back and corrected herself when she's been wrong about certain circumstances.
Has she ever corrected anyone that she's accused of any of these things?
She has not accused anybody of anything, though, Gary. She hasn't. She's accused them of lying. She's accused them of lying, of which I agree with. But she's not accused anybody of she's not specifically accused anybody of murdering Charlie Kirk.
She has, this is almost a direct quote. She's accused TPUSA of being involved in the cover-up of Charlie's murder.
TPUSA has been caught lying about certain circumstances of this case.
It doesn't matter if they got caught lying. Like, first of all, that is subjective, whether or not you believe it was a lie. Number two, they could have had information wrong. I see this time and time again. When people get information wrong, they're lying. When Candace gets information wrong, it's just a innocent mistake. She was speculating.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Where specifically did she accuse Turning Point USA of murdering Charlie? Or did you say of covering up the murder of Charlie?
Covering up, yeah, I did say that. I have a video of it.
Do you believe that there's zero evidence that might be the case?
Yeah, I think there's zero evidence of TPUSA being involved in the murder or the cover-up of Charlie Kirk assassination. There's no evidence. There's a bunch of people taking irrelevant circumstances, correlating it, and then saying this is clear evidence of something that it's not evidence of.
Well, I think it's evidence of lying, which I think what Candace would say is that if you are lying about something, you are covering something up.
Well, I think the same thing about Candace. She has lied, she's omitted information time and time again. If Erika Kirk lied about dating, which I disagree with, but we're not even going to hash that out. You and Lisa did it, and I'm not doing that.
No. What Lisa and I argued about were whether or not Erika had bad intentions with a minor, but she blatantly lied about her dating. I don't know how you don't see that, but in any case,
let's say
that data point on its own makes it irrelevant. But when you add in additional lies about maybe even bigger things and misrepresentations of Charlie after the fact, then it becomes a bigger problem. That was part of the argument that not argument, but conversation we had before we got on.
If you have one incident of lying or deception or whatever else that has nothing to do, that it does not indicate or directly correlate to the cover-up of Charlie Kirk's murder, if you can add 1,000 of them, and then you say, okay, I got 1,000 of these things, which I think most of those are manufactured. I think it's dishonest. I think it's every time that you get to a fork in the road and come to a subjective data point where a decision needs to be made, you take the worst possible interpretation of that event every single time. Every single time.
Can I at least can you at least just clarify? I need to know this from you. I need to know this from you. When Erika Kirk on CBS with Barry Weiss responding to the young girl asking about dating in New York City, when Erika Kirk says, when I lived here for 5 years, and I'm paraphrasing, but in the 5 years leading up to Charlie, I did not date here, which people say she did not date in New York City because she was being the type of person not engaging in the New York City drinking scene. She said she did not drink during this time frame. Okay. When she says that, yet she also then goes on a 2018 show, Bravo, and is drinking at a New York City bar on a date with an individual, whether the fact that it's on a reality show or not, she is on a date in New York City drinking alcohol. Would you say that that is being honest to the girl that she is answering right there?
I would say that what you're trying to do, if
I'm not trying to do anything, I'm just asking you straight up if you think it's a lie or not. Because what I can't get to is just to get your side to admit like this as a reality at all. And it's extremely frustrating for me. Like, just take this single point and just tell me, is that an honest answer to the question or not?
Okay, Gary? So first of all, hold on. If she is on a reality show and they happen to be drinking in that reality show, is that participating in the New York drinking scene?
She's sipping from a straw and drinking alcohol down her throat. So she's literally drinking alcohol like that. Yes.
If you want to take it, I'm going to give this to you. If you want to take it by the most literal sense and not her past perception of or understanding the perception of the question, it's like there's people that are part of a drinking scene that go out and drink every single night.
Yes.
And then if you say, hey, Gary, like I could even stop drinking. And like, hey, did you, like, most of my time in New York, I didn't participate in the drinking scene, didn't drink at all. But yeah, that's one time where I had a drink on a reality show for work. I guess I'm participating in the drinking scene, and everything I said is a lie. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not even a reasonable statement. If she's saying, hey, I didn't date in New York, was any of her boyfriends from New York?
The boyfriend or the date that she went on, yes, was in New York.
Okay.
I don't know the guy's name. And here's the thing. I wouldn't even care. No one would even care. No one would even care about this stuff. If she was just like, no one would even care. No one would even care. The problem is that she was trying to position herself as something that she was not. And that is ultimately, I think, what has turned a lot of people off when it comes to Erika Kirk and her behavior since Charlie passed away.
Zach, do you lie?
I have lied before. Yes.
Okay, but do you lie?
Do I?
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to, but have I told a lie before? I mean, I try to tell the truth, and if I might be wrong. But
if I ask you, do you lie? And your answer is, I try really hard not to, but I've been guilty of that in the past. Both of those statements could be true. If I sit there and said, hey, do you lie? And you say, no, I don't lie. It's not a present participle. Like, we're not doing this on a regular basis. I don't do that generally. And just because I did it once, and I'm sitting there trying to tell you, like, hey, you know what? I try my best to be an honest person. I don't go out and drink on a regular basis. I don't participate in the New York dating scene. But I forgot. There was that one time I did, and you pull up a video of it on a Bravo TV show. Like, I don't even know if that was real. Was that a real date? Like, or was it engineered? Was it set up for the show?
See, now I feel like I'm back in the Andrew Wilson debate where we're just arguing over what the definition of a word is.
No,
like, it's not logical. It's not logical. It's just like, look, you weren't being honest. Like, that's just what it comes down to. And it's just like, you know what? Just be honest. Just be authentic. No. That's it. Like, literally, we're just looking for authenticity. We're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for authenticity. No, and that is where a lot of people have been turned off regarding Erika Kirk. And there are other people that have grown more suspicious of her because of the dishonesty. Is what it comes down to.
I could go through your life. I could talk to everybody. I could do all kinds of things. And if I wanted to smear you and be completely uncharitable to you and wanted to present and engineer a picture, the perception to the public of you, I don't care how good of a person that you are. I could do that. And you can do that to me as well.
You can find dirt. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not fair. It's ridiculous. And then if the point of me finding dirt on you,
it doesn't give me any right to lie about it, though. If somebody went and found dirt, you'd be like, you know what I mean? Like, you would give if you're not a liar, you give an honest explanation about it.
Have you ever lied unintentionally? But to the point to where if I sat you down, I said, well, technically here, what this is a lie. You may end up like clarifying, like, yeah, Gary, I was just saying that, I don't do X, Y, and Z on a regular basis. But if I sit there and said, she wasn't asked, have you ever dated in New York City? She wasn't asked, have you ever drank? No, she said, I don't participate in that scene. That can absolutely.
She said in the 5 years leading up to Charlie, she did not.
Andrew asked you, do you watch porn? And you say, if you would say no.
What was my answer? Did I misrepresent myself? Did I misrepresent myself in that conversation?
Yes, because you were prepared for it. But if I just in the middle of,
I was not prepared for Andrew to ask me if I've ever watched porn. I was never prepared for that question.
You were like, and I would be too, by the way. I would be too. 100%.
Gary.
I don't.
Erika received the questions for that interview beforehand. She literally thought about her answer beforehand and literally said a false statement. That makes it even worse. Me and Andrew, you and I, were having a live conversation with I have a notebook here of notes. Like, literally, there's nobody else in this room. You and I can answer these questions we're not prepared for this. She literally, these were pre-planned questions, and she came up with that answer to that individual. Okay. Like, holy crap. Like, it's just all that example proves is just what I feel as though our side gets accused of being evil. My Christian faith is called out for these doubts and questions that I have with regard to the Charlie Kirk investigation and criticism of Turning Point USA and Erika Kirk. But when it all comes down to it, when I ask you a simple question as to whether or not that she answered that question honestly, and this is just one small example, the answer is always some form of spin. Like, it's just like, I'm going to spin. There's a reason she answered this way. Or it's just like, my goodness. Like, and it's like, you guys accuse us of not operating in good faith. And I feel like the favor is returned on the other side. So, and it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I feel the same frustration because again, this is an impasse. I feel like my brain says, no, he's trying to nail down something that's not in good faith, and he wouldn't want this done to him, because I guarantee you Zach has done something similar in the past. And if somebody sat there and held his feet over the fire, it's like you would come to the same conclusion, like, yeah, you know what? That's not what I meant. That's not how I perceived the question. That's not how I perceived the answer. And then you would be like, technically, that is incorrect. That's not true. But, and you feel the same, like, I won't admit that this is just a flat out lie because I don't think that it is. But there we go. Let's move on.
I feel like it's just funny though. Like Andrew Wilson kind of demanded the same thing of like, we got to be precise on our words. We got to be precise on our definitions. And you just brought the same up as being precise on the definition of lying. Yet when I give you an example of someone being dishonest and not telling the truth about what happened, which is a lie, there's always some form of spin that's involved in it. So I feel like that's not fair. We need to be accurate here. We need to be precise and accurate here, but it's okay if you're not precise and accurate here. Like we're letting Erika off the hook.
Here's what I'll say. Technically, it is an untruth. Do I believe that she was intentionally trying to lie? I don't believe that. Technically, we do this. Everybody does this all the time. And for you to take this woman, put her under a microscope and say, oh, look, I got you. You're a liar. You're a liar. Like, that you could not withstand the same level of examination that she has. I couldn't. Nobody out there could. And if every single one of these people, every single person in the comments, some more than others for sure, if they had you and me going through their entire lives and we just decided that we wanted to smear them and implicate them or imply guilt to a greater criminality, you and I could do that to any person out there. If we took everything that they ever did and we said, hey, you know what? This is how I want to frame this and I want to present it to the public, that could be done without a doubt. What you got, Jen?
Individuals misrepresent themselves to look better than they are. And there are multiple occasions of Erika doing that and people have a problem with it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I posted, or I brought up a few minutes ago, I don't know if you guys saw it on the screen, but there is the average person lies 0 to 2 times a day. The average person lies 10 to 40 times per month. And that's intentional, just small white lies. Also, I have a video of Candace Owens talking about how she would not want someone going back 10 years into her life and judging her. If you'd like me to play it.
No, I'm good on, you know what? Hold on to that. We might do that in a second. Speaking of which though, okay. one thing I do want to pull up. Can we get to the 30-06 and body armor and shot angle and stuff like that, as far as doubt about Tyler Robinson taking the shot, just to get through that information? Yes, we will do that in just a second. I do want to ask you on this right here. All right.
No, it's the lone shooter who had never been on campus, who climbed the roofs like spiders.
All right. So I just want to know if you feel like this is a lie. When Candace Owens continues to push the idea that he climbs the roof like Spider-Man, when you can just walk right up there. But anyways, let's play this.
Lone shooter who had never been on campus, who climbed the roofs like Spider-Man. Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man.
Well, here's footage from when I went to UVU. Let me show you exactly how much of a Spider-Man you have to be to get on this roof.
It's insane. All right, folks, so here's the stairs. They go to the roof. Wow. This wall is about maybe 3 feet tall.
All right, so right there is the shooting position. It's about 200 feet away from there. You don't need to be Spider-Man. As a matter of fact, you don't even need arms. You can literally get up there if you didn't have arms. So for her to say that you need to be Spider-Man and convince her, because there's a lot of people that still don't know this, and many of you watching this maybe didn't know this is how easy it was to get to the shooting location.
Lies by severe omission, I'd like to be very clear, are lies. Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man. Lies by severe omission are lies.
All right. Is that a fair representation of one of many lies by omission that she continues to say? She's repeated that dozens of times that he scaled the roof like Spider-Man. And she's never shown that footage. She's never shown anybody how easy it is to get on the roof.
If Candace is talking about Tyler Robinson climbing onto the roof, getting onto it, accessing it like Spider-Man, then that's probably a clarification that she needs to make in her language. If she's talking about or referring to when she's talking about that to him jumping off, then that might be a different, is she talking about that? I'm not 100% sure. But if she's talking about him getting on the roof, I will grant to you that she should probably clarify that statement. I mean, that's what I would say.
You scale something, which she said, if you scale something, that means go up. You don't scale down something. Look up the definition.
Maybe, sure.
And the fact is, it is a disservice to her entire audience, and it points to fact after fact after fact how she's being deceptive to her audience to narrative frame, to create a narrative that she doesn't allow any exculpatory evidence to break down her narrative. I'll tell you right now, there would be thousands of people that would completely change their view if she had actually showed how easy it is to actually get onto that roof. There are still people that think that you have to have some secret access. They have to get up there, or he had to climb up on top of like a skyscraper, I guess, shooting webs. So it's just obvious that she never presents any additional evidence, even though it exists. And lies by omission are lies, just like she said.
It happens often on her show. And I feel like that's not totally fair, though, of your assessment of Candace. There are certainly circumstances to where she has clarified a statement or have gone back and said that something that she said was wrong or she got wrong. Like, that's, again, and here's what I'll say. In a live interview like she's on with Piers Morgan, or even live on her show, you know how hard it is to be live and to make sure that your language is precise. Like, she could have meant scaling the roof and jumping off. Like, I don't know, but in any case, she has the right, and maybe she should clarify her statement on that matter. Like, I would agree with you there. Like, I'd agree with you that she should clarify what she's talking about.
Would you agree that it's irresponsible to the truth by never showing how easy that you just walk, that the rooftop is public access? Don't you think that's irresponsible to the truth?
I'm not sure. There's a lot that Candace has covered. I don't.
She has.
If anything, it would almost support her argument that something nefarious was going on, given the fact that the rooftop was so easy to access and there was no security on it. So, as I interpret this, and you saying this of how easy it is to access that rooftop, and the fact that there was no security protection by Charlie Kirk on it, even though there was concern about the rooftops. I know you talked to Brian Harple. I'd be curious as to, he obviously relied on the Utah State or the UVU police to have that covered. He didn't follow up with it. I mean, you're
their facility. It's their facility. That's physical security. That is not close protection. So that is on them to secure.
It's on who? Anyway, it's on the UVU police.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but if you're paid big money, Gary, to protect a very valuable guy, you're going to make sure that you're going to follow up to make sure they do their jobs, right? I mean, all I'm saying is that Candace should clarify her statement there. I agree with you. Candace should clarify her statement as to what exactly she was talking about. She's done so before. She should. Cool. With regard to the comparison to Erika Kirk lying, I think it's different in that, again, the CBS interview in particular were pre-planned questions. She literally had time to plan out how she was going to answer them, and then she still answered that way. Erika Kirk has the opportunity to come out and clarify her statements, and that's something that our side would love to hear from her with regard to some of these irregularities and things of dishonesty. And then your side would be like, well, she doesn't owe you any answers. It's like, okay, fine. Then we'll just never get anywhere. Just continue to send out cease and desist letters, and we'll just continue this divisive back and forth.
Well, I mean, this is a great example of how the double standards with this. What I heard for months and months and months, if any of the things that Candace Owens is alleging weren't true, TPUSA or Erika would be sending out cease and desist letters, or they'd be suing them. And then they send out cease and desist letters, and then the narrative that's pushed is only guilty people do that. I mean, you talk about spin, that's ridiculous. Like, that woman cannot do anything right. If she cries too much, she's guilty. If she doesn't cry enough, she's guilty. If she, has sequin pants, that's clearly she is not grieving. I mean, my God, you know who's in front of the TV every single day, in front of the camera every single day, but dancing around happy about this? Oh, guys, guess what we got today? Like, I don't know what phase and stage of guilt of grieving that Candace has ever been in. She's smiling. I can go through. She's smiling. She's happy. She's jubilant. Like, the day after of many times, by the way, the day after she goes and talks to Erika face to face, she comes back dancing to the music. Oh, and my opinion on that, completely speculation. My opinion is, hey, you know what? Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett said, hey, we're gonna go through all the lies that you've been saying. You're welcome to come on our show. Well, she says, anytime, any place. And then we're like, okay, well, let's do it on this date. Nope, that's not good. I need another date. Okay, well, that doesn't work either. Okay, you know what? Finally, it's like, Erika's like, fine. I wasn't even involved in this, but I will come talk to you in good faith. I will give you all the time. She flies out to Tennessee. She meets with Candace Owens. She gives her unfettered access to just about everything that she could potentially ask. There was not one single thing that Candace alleges that she asked that Erika didn't answer. And then on top of that, what I find extremely concerning about that is that what Candace did state during that episode, she's like, the only time that I saw emotion from Erika Kirk was when I brought up her mother. And then, just happenstance, 2 months later, she's doing an entire series of just destroying this poor lady that's dying, just smearing her good name. She can't even defend herself. Like, my God, you talk about, like, do you not think that is evil? Like, what's even the point of smearing her mother? The insinuation is, I'm going to make Lori look evil. And really what I believe, speculation, is that she's doing that to hurt Erika. And I think that's a reasonable assumption to make, because what I can tell you is I don't care how evil Lori is, that doesn't prove or even imply or anything else insinuate that Erika Kirk is guilty of anything. There's lots of people out there that have convicted fathers, mothers, and everything else that are done horrible things, but I wouldn't go back in their background and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to smear you by pulling up the fact that your mother was a serial killer or something like that. I mean, it's like,
all right, a couple things there. So when Erika agreed to go talk to Candace on wherever they met, Erika also said that they were going to shut down any talk about what was going to happen as far as going after Candace or talking about the investigation. Is that accurate? Erika said that she was going to go meet with Candace and that all talk regarding the Charlie Kirk assassination would not take place.
No.
She did say that. Yes, she did say that.
No, she didn't.
She did. And we can go back and find her statement on it. We can go back and find her statement on it. I don't know if it was Blake Neff or Andrew Colvett said that Erika is flying to meet with Candace and there will be no further conversation. Basically, we're not talking about this during this time frame.
Hold on.
And who did Turning Point USA have on their show that day?
They had me. I will gladly give you
my man that I'm talking to right here on the show to talk about how everything Candace was talking about was wrong.
Share with you the conversation specifically about that incident with Andrew Colvett in just a second. But I also, if you will, pull up Erika Kirk's statement that she put out before, just so that we're factually correct here, before she met with Candace Owens.
Are you talking to Jen to do this? Okay. Yeah. All right, good. Because again, I'm here by myself and I don't have a producer. So if I go and try to look something up, then I can't listen to you. And then I feel like the conversation doesn't flow. That's happened a couple times. But
I agree. And if you do need something looked up, ask Jen to do it and she will do it. So you can, I mean, that's what she's there for. I'll tell you, like, if you don't have a producer, you should get one. even if it helps. It helps a lot. I want you to be successful, Zach.
Despite what your side thinks, like it's YouTube makes pretty good money, but it's not like it's not like some skyrocket that I've made a whole bunch of money since going against the narrative and the mainstream narrative, whether it be the President Trump administration or whether it be the Charlie Kirk assassination. Like, my account grew from like 5,000 followers up to over 200,000 over the course of the campaign, election, and then after.
Good.
All that coverage. It took me literally like over a year to go from like 217 or so up to 300. It's been kind of a slog since then, to be honest with you. Like, the money is made in being a fanboy and a political shill, right? Like, that's
oh my God, bro.
That's what I see. That's what I see.
Are you kidding me right now? I'm talking from my own personal experience. You can check out my social blade and kind of see my growth. You can check mine out too.
Not great.
Because since November, when I came out and I saw what, I wasn't even paying attention to Candace Owens at all. I was completely my own investigation. I wasn't paying attention to what the federal government said. I wasn't paying attention to what Candace Owens said. I was doing my own investigation. And then somebody made a post about Candace and what she said. I was like, there is no, because I loved Candace. Big fan of Candace up to November. Had no clue what she was alleging, saying, completely in my own little box. I saw some social media posts talking about what Candace said. I was like, there's no way.
What's funny about you saying that is, like, I was actually like, I knew who Candace was, but I was actually fairly skeptical of her early on. So it's funny how, like, we've reversed a little bit. But
what I did, and by the way, that was like November, I was at 285,000 followers. So let's talk about the benefit of all of this. And then I started researching her. So it was like, that was like early November. By mid-November, I was like, dude, this is so crazy. There's no way that I can't speak out. And I was 100%. She's extremely popular. Everybody, like, look at the fastest growing YouTube channels out there. We can look at Candace Owens. We can look at Valhalla, VFT. We can look at Jesse on Fire. We can look at Baron Coleman. Like, nobody on our side is getting anything but lost subscribers, diminished views, and personal attacks and doxing and death threats, all of which has happened to me. So I don't want to, and my views went down. I don't care, because once
if you look at the trend line though of Candace's show, it's stayed pretty steady since she left Daily Wire though. No, it has. Gary, look at Social Blade. Look at Social Blade. In any case, Gary, your account, if you look at your own Social Blade, your account gained a lot of subscribers in your coverage of the Charlie Kirk investigation.
Up to the point, you're absolutely correct. Up to the point that I went after Candace. In November, I was at like 285.
Up to the point where you caught Candace 19.
No, just it's obvious to me, like, what's going on and what she's trying to do to not only TPUSA, but what she's trying to do to fracture the conservative movement, to make sure that we lose the midterms. And there's much more on that. And I also believe, and I've talked about this all the time, I do think that foreign adversaries, political adversaries, are boosting her numbers because it's a message that is diminishing to Trump administration, the MAGA movement, which is what's going to save this country. But that's what they want to end. And that's what they're using Candace. And then everybody else, and at the very beginning of this, her, Ian Carroll, Baron Coleman, all of these, Coach Colin, all these people were collaborating and were directing messages. And like it was such a clear engineered narrative that, in spite of evidence, in spite of common sense, like when you're out there pushing exploding mic theories and you're taking this seriously, and by the way, if you're Candace Owens, you have all the resources that you do, and you never go to UVU, you never bring on one subject matter expert on any of these fields, you never bring on lawyers or anything else to talk about the case, you never show the charging documents, you never show any evidence that would exonerate or go against the narrative that she pushed. That is a clear pattern that you are trying to create narratives, and you're not concerned about the truth.
Gary, I have the tweet.
Yes, put that tweet up.
It's up. You have to move it.
Candace Owens and I are meeting for a private in-person discussion on Monday, December 15th. I have agreed that public discussions, live streams, and tweets are on hold until after this meeting. I look forward to a productive conversation. Thank you.
What do you mean, thank you? Public discussions and live streams. You literally went on the Charlie Kirk show to talk about where Candace Owens is wrong during the meeting.
Hold on. What is Erika Kirk? Hold on. What is Erika? Who Erika Kirk is the CEO of what?
Turning Point USA.
Okay, and then we have the Charlie Kirk Show. Is
Oh,
that under
no,
TPUSA?
you're not gonna separate the businesses, are you?
Of course I am. Hold on. Do you think that
Hold
Erika
on,
Kirk
Jen,
is
can we
saying-
pull
hold
the
on.
tweet back up? Jen, can we pull the tweet back up?
Do you think that Erika Kirk is going to tell Andrew Colvett, that was partners with Charlie, completely separate business, that he can't do live streams, that he does every single day, that he actually absolutely has contractual obligations to run, that they're just going to stop anything?
Come on.
TPUSA
He would have certainly been fine talking about giving Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett on the Charlie Kirk Show could have very easily given their political take on whatever subject matter they want that didn't have to do with the investigation. That is what that tweet means and implies, Gary. Come on. And also too, as long as we're talking about you would say ownership in the Charlie Kirk Show, which I understand Andrew Colvett owned with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Does it follow that Erika Kirk would then have ownership in that company after Charlie passes away? I don't know the legal documents as far as that goes. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know how the corporate structure of that show was put. I don't know if they had contingencies in place. I don't know.
So are you saying that Andrew Colvett went rogue and had you on during that conversation?
No. Let's. I'm going to lay out exactly what happened for you so that you are moving forward. You can make whatever conclusion you want, but at least move forward with the actual facts. Like 4 days before that show was the first time that I had ever talked to Andrew Colvett. I had been trying to contact him via Twitter DMs. Hey, I was trying to confirm way back in the day about body armor. So I was trying to contact him, heard nothing. Like 2 or 3, 4 days, I don't know, somewhere around there, long before the show, long before the agreement of Erika Kirk and Candace Owens going to that, he contacted me and he said, Gary, would you come on this show? I've been watching your content and we'd love to have you on the show. And he said, oh, sorry, I missed your questions. And I'm like, hey, and he started talking about body armor. I was like, hey, look, I talked to Brian Harpool. That's old, it's dead. I got it. I've done the thing. Like, hey, he wasn't wearing body armor, which I did really the night of, by the way. And then we can, if you want to talk more about that, we can. But anyways, so then I get a call the day of the show. And he's like, Gary, listen, hey, Erika Kirk is having Candace Owens. And because we had a show outline that we were going to go through and just debunk, using my work, using their work. That's not what we did. What we did specifically, debunk Candace specifically. He's like, hey, look, we want to act in good faith. This is literally almost word for word what he said. He said, hey, listen, we want to act in good faith. We can still talk about the assassination, but we don't want to directly address what's going on with, tying that directly to Candace Owens. So what we did is talk about generalities. And I don't know if I never said Candace Owens' name or not. I know I'm 90% certain they did. But what I'm saying is, in good faith, we completely restructured that show.
I think good faith, in my opinion, would have been postponing.
That's your opinion.
Sure
Opinion. I think
Sure.
I think they made beyond reasonable efforts to go in there and actually say, hey, look, we're going to completely restructure the show. I think that is good faith. You may decide that is not enough good faith, that they should have just shut the show down completely. Erika Kirk is not running or doing anything with the Charlie Kirk Show. That is a completely separate entity, and that point is valid. But the point is like, we had a long discussion. We had a very long discussion of like, hey, we want to act in good faith. We're going to talk about these things. They already had me booked. They already had everything going on with what's going on. And when I say booked, I didn't get any money from them. Never got any money from TPUSA. I've never been hired by anybody, even though literally, Candace Owens says I was hired by TPUSA. That's a lie. And that's one of the reasons I am so mad. And definitely know from the inside looking out that she is lying. She said Erika Kirk hired me for PR. That's a lie, dude. That is defamation and slander by every stretch of the means. And I know she knows that. Do you know why I know she knows that? I know she knows that's not true because I've talked to Candace Owens DM. She DM'd me. So, and we had that discussion.
About what? I mean, look, this is something that you obviously should take up with Candace then. I'm only saying that
I know
thought that the Charlie Kirk Show, which to pretend that Erika Kirk has no influence over, I feel like is a little bit of a stretch.
The
But
influence.
my only point was that Erika said that there would be no discussions or live streams
from TPUSA. I mean that's just implied. She has no.
What show does Turning Point USA have? Does Turning Point USA have a specific live stream they do every day?
I know they put out content all the time.
Does Turning Point USA not give any money to the Charlie Kirk show as a business?
I have no idea.
Marketing and for anything like that. Are they affiliated at all?
No idea.
So,
but what I can tell you, listen, you're saying they didn't act in good faith, and I can tell you they did make a lot of good faith efforts. Whether you accept that as enough is fine. But what I can tell you is we completely restructured the show. And I thought that was completely, I was like, oh, that's actually very nice of you. That's acting in good faith. They're like, cool. Yeah. You know what? I'll completely restructure what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And you're like, that's not enough. That's not enough. They should have not mentioned her at all.
No, I thought that you have been an outspoken critic of Candace Owens and her investigation. So I thought that personally having you on, I think that good faith would have been postponing that interview to a later date. I think that Erika saying that and then having you on, who was a very outspoken critic of Candace Owens, I thought was not good faith. I mean, but you're right. That's my opinion. With regard to what you and Candace were DMing over, what was that about?
Specifically, it was specifically talking about my text messages with Andrew Colvett. And she said, hey, basically, how are you in contact with Andrew Colvett? And I told her, I was like, hey, this is what happened. I was doing a story talking about Mitch Snow and the fact that Erika Kirk was not at Fort Huachuca. I was getting ready for that show. I sent him a text. I said, and this is the first time I contacted him after coming on the show. This was after TPUSA Amfest. And I have a source. So as a good journalist, I'm like, hey, I'm getting ready to do this completely debunk Mitch Snow. I didn't even think he was going to reply. I was actually shocked that he did. And I said, hey, Andrew, are you willing to provide any evidence? I'll happily show the text to everybody out there. Do you happen to have any evidence that would prove that Erika Kirk wasn't there on the night? Now, what I will say, I kind of meant on the 8th, but I was also working on the assumption that Candace was implying that if Erika Kirk was there on the 8th and the meeting happened on the 9th, that she was somehow involved in that. All right. I kind of screwed that up. And I screwed up. I was sitting there doing this and wasn't even expecting him to reply. And I saw a reply. And being honest, being completely transparent, I threw that up there. In retrospect, it was silly. It was a mistake. I should have paid more attention. But to sit there and try to paint me as a shill of TPUSA because I reached out to them, a source, and then push the narrative that I'm paid and controlled by Andrew Colvett over that text is false. It's a lie. It is a complete false narrative that you're just trying to undermine my credibility. And all he wanted out of that was to not show the picture. I didn't see it. I was sitting here. I saw a picture pop up in my text. I'm like, oh, I screenshot it, threw it up there. Stupid. I should have took a little bit more time, had a little bit more attention to detail. My bad. I'll admit that I'll make a mistake from time to time, but what I'm not going to do is lie to people. And I was completely open and transparent. If anything, that proves that I'm not lying about anything. And then she contacted me and she wanted to know if, it was based, you know what? I'm not going to share it. I just want to make sure that I am accurate about what she actually stated.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want Candace to catch you in a lie. That's for sure.
Well, I can catch her in 50 lies. I have, and I will continue to.
Oh, see, the thing is, though, is that I feel like this kind of gets to your body armor argument, and that, like, I feel like it's okay for anybody else to be wrong and make corrections, but whenever Candace does it, she's accused of lying. Like, I feel like the standard is not applied, and that's not fair.
Let me give you the principled difference between what you're asserting here. Number one, if I'm wrong about body armor, number two, the day that I posted that.
Do you admit that? Do you admit that you were, or you don't know?
I said it 1,000 times that I was wrong. So hold on. The day that I posted that which was, I think, the day after Charlie was murdered. All I was doing was looking at the information that I had. I think even in that video, I said I could be wrong about this. I don't know about that for sure. But regardless, I said,
what made you think that it was body armor, just in general?
Oh, because of the shape, how I interpreted the events. It looks like he's hit in the chest. He goes up, and again, what we're trying to do, Was it a doubt about the 30-06?
No.
I mean, like
Gary, I think it was. When you were on with Kyle Seraphin,
yep.
I watched almost that whole show. Like, I remember I was up late doing it. I sent you a super chat that night asking about the 30-06, and you were skeptical of the time about that.
That's at the time when I first put that video. I don't know if I talked about that or not, but what I will tell you is, yes, at first I was doubtful that it was a 30-06. And that remained for a while. And I'll tell you my change on that. And I'm happy to go through that evolution. It's because more facts came in that I was made aware of. And I spent a lot of time studying what's going on. And I want to make sure that I'm clear on my position of what I think when it comes to 30-06.
Yeah, but interested to hear that.
So I released that video. Again, I started making that video hours after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I released it the next day. By that evening, I gotten pictures because at first, based on what we could see of the profile of the shirt, I did think that it was like a thin potentially metallic armor. There's lots of different things. And I did think that there was a deflection from here that actually hit him in the head. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. And that's what I presented. By that night, on the 11th, the night of the 11th, I had actually gotten some text messages of some new pictures that came out that showed that Charlie Kirk from the sides and things, it indicated that he did not have body armor.
Yeah, you could see his nipples and his chest. Yeah.
Well, that's not, his nipples are not.
Well, you could see like the outline of his chest and his necklace. I thought that made it pretty obvious.
We definitely didn't see the profile of any sort of carrier underneath. That's what I'll say. Yeah. The same day that I released that video, that night I did a live stream. And I was like, hey guys, I just got pictures and I'm probably going to have to issue you a mea culpa. It looks like he's probably not wearing body armor. And if I got that wrong, I apologize. Now, some other things were going on during that time. And from that point, by the way, anytime, and there was like a week or two, or maybe even longer, that I continued to talk about body armor. But every time that I brought it up, I was like, hey, look, I'm still investigating in this. I'm still flushing this out. And I just want to tell you that this is not a fact. I'm not presenting it that way. And I could be wrong when it comes to the body armor. I was very careful about my language going forward because I had my own doubts with this. Because what I can tell you is I ended up getting a report from a news reporter that's close to the Charlie Kirk team. I had no connection with them or whatever else. And the reporter told me, hey, he actually was wearing body armor. And he likes to call it this is a guy that I know knows Charlie, by the way. And by the way, I'll tell you that it ended up being wrong, which is why I didn't even report that. And then we're going to talk about Ryan Matta in another moment. So this person tells me, hey, he actually has specialized body armor that we all know exists, by the way. And I'm just tell you right now, there's extremely thin executive level protection. Some of it's even customized that absolutely can stop or deflect some rifle rounds, whatever. So I was still exploring that while just continuing to investigate generally what I thought took place. So I'm exploring that.
Damn, aren't you concerned at all that ended up being false information that you were given from somebody close to Charlie Kirk, who was basically trying to give you a piece of evidence that was false that would have justified basically the Tyler Robinson 30-06 narrative? Like that's pretty shocking, actually. It's pretty shocking information that you would receive that information from someone close to Charlie Kirk. That's basically trying to push that narrative. That's kind of crazy.
Fair that if you want to frame that way, perfectly fine.
Why else would he give you something false? Like, why do you think that is?
I'm going to give you a counterpoint to this. At the exact same time, Ryan Matta, who is no friend of Charlie Kirk, who does not believe the Fed slop, also contacted me via DMs and X and said, hey, I just talked to somebody that is friends with the surgeon that worked on Charlie Kirk, and he confirmed that he was wearing body armor. You were right all along. And this is like a week later. I'm like, did I report that? I was still unsure about what was going on. From that point forward, from the day after I released that video, I said, hey, here's the facts. And then I released another 1 or 2 videos of why I could possibly be right, but I was very clear on my language that I'm speculating. But what is equally dangerous or more dangerous that nobody seems to care about is people that are putting out palm guns, people that are putting out, people that are doing in detailed videos about camera guns, Bushman guns, exploding mic guns, and somehow when I put something out and then I correct the record and then I'm still investigating, trying to confirm or deny it, and I'm always stating every single time, putting out a disclaimer, hey, I could be wrong on this. Like, they're okay. Some of these people have never even went back and corrected the record. Some of them have never apologized for being wrong. I did immediately, and I always will, because the truth is all that matters. I don't care if my government, if I can prove that my government, if I find evidence that my government is involved with this, man, let's burn them down. But I've never seen any evidence. All the lies every single time, and there's thousands of them, are always coming from social media and social media personalities.
And I agree, you got to be careful with the lies, but I would also push back. So one question I do have from you is what source did Ryan Matta get that information from with regard to
a friend of, you know what? Hold on. I'll tell you exactly.
It's just because it's interesting. You're receiving messages from a reporter close to Charlie Kirk. He's receiving messages from an individual. I don't know if close to Charlie Kirk you're about to tell me that they're trying to, you know, there's an attempt to say that he had body armor, which ended up not being true, which is interesting. I'm just thinking through that as you're telling me as to,
Sure.
Because that would provide justification. Like if he had body armor on, and that explains shot angle, that explains the exit wound with the 30-06, that, you know, puts a lot of pressure on Tyler Robinson and the narrative for sure. Like, so that's interesting.
All those things have absolute plausible explanations without body armor. Like, I was not married to that. Like, the biggest thing to me.
No, but I think what's fair to characterize your initial argument is that you were skeptical that a 30-06 was used.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Fair. That is 100% accurate.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, again, if we want to get to that 30-06 being used, I think that is another data point with regard to the reasonable doubt. There's a lot of people that have their entire theory on this hinging off that issue of the 30-06 could not have been the weapon. There's merit to that argument. And then we have, so let me explain to you. So as far as getting into your body armor argument, and as I was paying attention to things at the time, Dr. Chris Martinson, who has the channel Peak Prosperity, I think you know who Chris Martinson is. I mean, you've covered some of his stuff as well.
Yeah, and I've been on the show.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. He covered the topic of the cavitation effect. Basically, the cavitation effect of a high power rifle hitting an individual.
Hold on, I want to present this to you. This is what I got from Ryan Matta, just so we're clear. Okay. And I'll give you the exact date and all of those good things. So we got that data point.
We got to get the data points in there. We got to get the data points in there.
Data point covered. All right, so there's that. I'm going to go over here and I'll make this. This is what I now have a second source. This is September 17th. I now have a second source who just contacted me to confirm that Charlie Kirk was hit from the front. The bullet hit his vest, which drastically slowed down the speed, the bullet, blah, 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 blah. Let me see. All right. I just got this one 10 minutes ago. I'm gonna make those pictures big in just a second. Those are text messages. You were spot on with every piece of your analysis. Really great work. Let me know if you need anything or have any more questions. This is what he sent me. These were some sort of text messages. I have a friend that is a Utah County sheriff that's been part of the investigation. The bullet severed his spine. He had a pulse, but was more or less dead upon impact. And then this one right here. Yeah, someone I know is related to the surgeon that worked on him. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. They hit him for the heart, but it ricocheted up to the neck. That's why his chest caved in. Yep, exactly. So that's what I had. And that is, well, let me see when the message came in. I think it's safe to assume it was the day that he sent that, September 17th. So that's what I was working off. Now, if I was like most people, I want to have my biases confirmed, what I think. Was I tempted to share this? Like, yep, I'm right. But I was hesitant because I am not married to anything that I'm going to propose. I'm going to research it. I'm taking this as a data point because it's unconfirmed bullshit. It's what it is. It's hearsay by 3 people. And I realize that, and I'm not going to use that to reinforce my argument, as no one should, when we have unconfirmed information with no evidence backing it up. That's how people should responsibly report information.
How did you come to see, I guess this is almost, it's kind of just like a difference in philosophy, I guess you can say, with regard to this approach to the investigation. Like, my perspective on those messages that you received from basically 3 different sources, ultimately, is what this comes down to, is that your argument on body armor was looking like it was going to be right at the time. Had you put those out and allowed the discussion, the free exchange and the discussion of those ideas to come out, I don't see how that would be detrimental to the case, I guess.
Because putting out bullshit information just for the sake of putting out bullshit information is going to confuse people and cause people to believe in things that are potentially not true. People trust me, and I was already wrong on something, and I didn't want to make that mistake again.
Yeah. Okay. So you were a little bit more hesitant because you had been wrong about something before. I get that. Yeah.
Like, to me, the standard is this: if I can't confirm a fact, and I don't have evidence that reinforces that fact, then like somebody's statement or opinion on something means nothing to me. And I'm not, if I put that out, I know that some percentage of my audience is going to buy into that narrative. And then what else they're going to do is they're going to be like, look, Gary said this. And by the way, he said this based on some bullshit second, third hand knowledge. And like, I actually care about my credibility. And I want to make sure that I'm very factual and stick to the facts and don't get captured. Like, I am more critical of the things that I believe than anything that you can put at me. Like, I am going to be very critical. Like, why am I believing this? Is it true? Is it supported by facts? And that should be the principled structure on our beliefs, that our belief system stays. If we just say, I don't trust my government, so I am automatically just going to discount this, well, guess what? You could be being sold an op. But if you say, you know what, I don't trust my government, I'm going to go out and investigate these things. I'm going to go to UVU. I'm going to take a look at the trajectories. I'm going to look at supporting evidence, other evidence that goes against that. I'm going to do it all, and then I'm going to present what I think are the best facts.
Sure.
That's how this should be done, and that's how we make ourselves more immune to being manipulated by people on social media for whatever. Like, forget about it. Doesn't matter what the motivation is. Doesn't matter if it's, we could take 50 different creators, and they're all pushing the same narrative. If they are, this is just hypothetical. If they're all pushing the same narrative, every single one of them has a different motivation. Some of those people might be psychological operatives, right? Actually, information operatives from other countries, from a political organization, whatever else. They may just be capitalizing on what's being said and then, continuing to push that because it benefits them. There could be somebody that just likes clicks and views. There could be somebody that whatever. Doesn't matter. But like, that's what it comes down to, is like, you need to make sure that you are more critical of your belief system than anybody else. And that's what I believe in doing every single time.
Same. And I share that concern about the things that I say. And I constantly am evaluating myself on whether or not what I'm going to put out and talk about and share my opinion on, which, as you know, when you're talking live is difficult to do because you are required to talk, you are required to present, and you may, I don't know, you may start going and talking about things that you end up like not even sure, like if you actually believe, what you just said, and you got to go back and make corrections again. Like I'm I'm not
So-
arguing that anybody has to be perfect in this pursuit. We have the right to be wrong. We do have the right to be wrong without being diagnosed and accused and slandered. And I think that a lot of our side gets diagnosed and slandered and considered evil. And again, I've had my Christian faith called out many times. How could you be a Christian and question these types of things or be critical of Erika Kirk? I'll give you a great example. Like I put out maybe it was a couple months ago on X. And this came from a conversation that I was having with my wife, and I said to her, and she's somebody that I trust her opinion on things. She's got no skin in the game as it comes to all this. She's very strong in her faith. Like she's someone I go to when I need to maybe rein myself in, I guess you can say. And I asked her, I was like, Casey, like, do you think that being critical or calling Erika Kirk out about, these certain things is immoral? Like, do you think that I'm a bad person for what I'm talking about here? And she came back to me and was like, look, when it comes down to it, if Erika Kirk is not being lying, and there are certain things that I also too have found weird based on what I see in the way that she's presenting herself and some of the things that she said to misrepresent herself, like she kind of shared in some of that skepticism. And, and then I brought up to her the question. I was like, the casket of Erika filming herself over Charlie's casket, where you could see the corpse of Charlie and she was filming herself, or she was being filmed crying over it. I said to my wife, I was like, that's weird. If I died, that would be something that you should not be doing. Like, I don't think that that's appropriate behavior. So then I was like, I went back and I wanted to find that again so I could watch it, because it had been months and months and months. And when I first saw it, when Charlie first died, like, I was rooting for Erika. I covered a lot of Erika and Turning Point USA stuff. I donated money. I bought the Freedom shirts. Like, I truly and genuinely wanted Erika Kirk and Turning Point USA to succeed. I mean, I wish that they would reverse course on some of these things that they've been doing. But in any case, I then was like, you know what? I'm gonna call this out. Like, and I got that post together. I put it on X, and then I sat there for 5 minutes and I was like, do I want to do this? Like, do I want to do this? Like, and then I was just like, you know what? Is it true? Like, the answer to the question is it true? And the answer to that was yes. So I ended up putting it out. It went crazy viral. Candace Owens shared it. Many prominent people shared it. And then they all shared the same perspective. And you just also admitted right there that it was weird. It's not behavior that is, I don't want to say acceptable. I mean, obviously she did it. Like, it's not like it's a crime necessarily, but it's strange behavior that just kind of rubs people the wrong way. And you brought up her mother and Candace being critical. I mean, obviously she's looked into Lori Franzwe's past and Erika Franzwe's past before she married Charlie with the Bride of Charlie series. And Lori Franzwe, I mean, you can think that you can think that it's not weird. I can think that it's weird that she's got 50 different LLCs set up. Normally, if you're running some sort of operation, or you're trying to shield money, or you're trying to do something, that's the way that you would do it. Opening up different LLCs. And let me just finish my point, and then you can answer. Okay. Erika is the one who put those vulnerable videos of her mother onto social media. So again, we're talking about the source of this is not some enemy of Erika that leaked these videos of Erika's mother or of her crying over Charlie's casket, etc. This is Erika herself that published these own things on her social media. And that was one of the driving factors too in my decision to simply repost what Erika had already shared, and me saying, this is weird. If I died and my wife did this, I give you all permission to criticize her for it. And I stand by that statement. It's 100% true. And Erika is the source of that video. So I'll ask you this. Do you think that what I did by sharing that video and making that statement was an evil thing for me to do?
I think.
Do you think that was evil, and do you think it was unchristian of me to do that?
No, I don't think it's any of those. I think it's potentially irresponsible, and I think it's potentially ignorant. And here's why. One of the things I used to teach is threat detection. All right. So in threat detection or surveillance detection, one of the things we make sure that people understand is that there is odd behavior. If you go out and you're observing people, you'll find that people do weird things all the time. But there is a clear difference between weird behavior and suspicious behavior. And just because you subjectively find something weird because it's somebody else that sees the world differently than you, I bet if I hung around you long enough, and this goes both ways, we hung around each other long enough, like you do this weird thing, or whatever it is, right? Just because we do weird things doesn't make it suspicious. You can put it in that category, but it doesn't make it suspicious. Is Lori having, let's say she has 20 different LLCs, is that normal?
Well, I would say that it's abnormal.
It's not normal at all. Like,
It's
most
abnormal.
people don't have 20 LLCs.
Correct.
Like unless you're like this, big entrepreneur or you're running a big business, whatever else, like, it is definitely not normal. That's a very small percentage of the population to have any LLC, much less, let's say 10. I don't know how many she had on that graph. I will also state that she presented no evidence that the information that she presented was true. Like, she could have put that up there. If you're somebody like me and you don't trust Candace Owens, she did not present the fact that any of that stuff was true. If she presented,
but then wouldn't you agree that the burden of proof is on you to disprove that?
Oh my God, that's the silliest shit I've ever heard.
Why?
No. Well, here's why.
If you're going to accuse Candace Owens of lying, then your accusation would warrant the burden to be on you to prove that.
This is the logic fallacy that Andrew Wilson was trying to explain to you, and I try to explain to people all the time. If you're going to make an accusation or claim, the burden of proof is on you.
You're making the claim that she's a liar.
Hold on. It is the default position. It's logically the default position to believe that is bullshit until you, the claimant, prove that it's true.
These are public documents, though. She shared the public documents.
I don't know where
you know how YouTube works. You can literally present the document, the public document that you receive, and put it on screen.
We're getting outside the point, but I think this is a really important thing to hone down. Do you know that the information that she presented is true?
If I was skeptical about a piece of information that was being shared with me, online, which we got to be skeptical of a lot online, right?
Of course. So first of all,
it's not going to work. In reality, it's not going to work for me to then rely on that individual. I would then have to go do my own due diligence to ensure I'm not believing bullshit.
Listen, I'm not trying to crap you. I don't require long responses on this. These are simple yes or no questions. So, and it's not a gotcha moment. I just want to.
Got to be careful with yes or no questions.
Whatever. All right. So it's weird. It's odd for someone to have 10 LLCs, 20 LLCs, 50, whatever it is, right? We can agree on that. Yes?
Yep.
Just because that exists, is that suspicious? Does that point to criminal intent?
Not that on its own. No.
Agreed. All right. So there's that. Now let's go back to the logical fallacy that you just brought up. If I go outside and I'm in the woods and I take a picture of me in the woods, and then I come back in here and I say, guess what? I just saw Bigfoot. And you're like, okay, well, you got to provide some evidence. And I show you a picture. Of me in the woods. I was like, I was out in the woods. I saw Bigfoot. Here's a picture of me in the woods. That proves that I saw Bigfoot. You would say, no, it isn't. And then my response to you is, well, you got to prove that I'm going to lie. You got to debunk me. Isn't that stupid?
I understand. Okay. I understand the logical fallacy that you are defining. Yeah. We live in a reality and in a world. So I understand what you're saying. What I am saying is that the reality that we live in, what I shouldn't have admitted, the term I should not have used was burden of proof, because that has its own legal definition, right? what I am describing is just common sense reality, especially the online world that we live in, where when we are presented information, the individual presenting the information is presenting it as true. And it's up to all of us that don't want to believe bullshit to look into what we are being told.
No.
Do you agree with that though?
No, I don't. I reject that adamantly. It is.
So you don't follow up on anything that you're being
clarify.
told by any of these people online.
Let's get back on the same.
I understand in a world of good faith, the individuals that were sharing the information, they have the burden to tell the truth. But we don't live in a world where that is the case.
No, they don't have a burden to tell the truth. No, they have a burden to provide evidence. It is not my burden.
No, they have a burden to provide proof.
Whether or not what she said is true.
They have a burden to provide proof, right? They have a burden to provide legitimate proof if they're trying to make a claim that they want to believe to be true, not evidence. Because in your example with Bigfoot, the picture of the dude with Bigfoot would constitute as evidence, but it's not actually proof that was reality.
Hold on. No, listen to what I said. I didn't say that I had picture of Bigfoot. I had a picture of me in the woods. I corroborated my location, which is not a material claim. And that's what I see done every single time with these people is they say, hey, look, a great example of Fort Huachuca. All right. I can prove that I was at Fort Huachuca. Therefore, it's true. But my material claim is that I walked into a meeting that was allegedly, I don't even know what was alleged at the end of the day. It was allegedly a couple different things. Some sort of final brief to go assassinate Charlie Kirk. And number two, I saw Erika Kirk. I saw Brian Harpool. I saw this. That's what con men do all the time. They prove an element, but they don't actually provide any evidence or proof of the material claims. And that's what Candace Owens has done every single time. When she went through Lori's background, she provided a lot of data points, a lot of information. She did not prove, she didn't even give any evidence whatsoever that there was anything corrupt or illegal taking place. Nothing. She talked about uncles. She talked about this. She said, look at all these many different corporations. Look at what's going on here. What's going on here. She didn't point to one thing that was illegal that she could prove. She didn't point to one thing that was corrupt that she could prove. She didn't point to one thing that she's been convicted of. I mean, another great example of this is the French Foreign Legion. Like this, we have an assassination plot of the French coming over here with one Israeli or whatever the heck's going on. We can't find any evidence of French Foreign Legion out in the crowd. This entire conspiracy to murder Charlie Kirk was pulled off by, I guess, the Americans, I guess the Israeli, and I guess the French. That's what she alleged. That is such a huge accusation and thing to claim. And we got zero evidence. Evidence.
Okay. I understand your
Hold on. This is such a sophisticated assassination attempt that in assassination conspiracy that we have some of the best military on the face of the planet. They have completely dialed this thing in. They might be using some weird, crazy technology, whatever else. And they were able to pull off this assassination, and then they were able to get out of here. Nobody saw them. Nobody figured out what was going on. I don't even know why they would need a patsy. Doesn't really matter. But they were able to get out of here. But the one thing they screwed up, they're like, oh, you know what? We actually hit him with I don't know, 5.56. What gun did you give the patsy? Oh, I gave him a 30-06. Oh my God, we screwed up. Like, it's the dumbest shit. Like, if you and I were sitting here coming up with an assassination plot, we want to pin it on a patsy, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to use 5.56 or 2.23 or 6 arc or what, exploding mic. I mean, that's the dumbest of them all. But I'm going to use that, and then what I want you to do, like, were you in the military?
No.
All right, so you have no tactical background. I said, all right. What I want you to do, Zach, is we're going to plan this out. I'm going to use 5.56. I want you to get that guy the patsy. I want you to put him on the roof, and I want you to hand him this rifle. And you're like, Gary, what caliber is this? It's a 30-06. Oh, don't you think that's going to show up? Don't you think that's going to tip our hand? You would know that right off the bat. But that's what this entire crazy assassination plot. That's what they did. That's the one thing they screwed up. It's freaking dumb. And then on top of that, we don't even have any. We don't have. Do we have any evidence that the French Foreign Legion, Israel, and I guess the U.S. military conducted this assassination? Do we have any evidence of that whatsoever?
Again, this is where I would get into Joe Kent and what Joe Kent has said with regard to the lack of evidence. The reason that we don't have evidence is because the investigation was shut down. So hold on. You just talked for a while. You just talked for a while. Let me make the argument. And you asked me a question. So let me answer.
Yep.
So we have a situation where, and first of all, what I'll say is that what Candace Owens is doing is she's not drawing or jumping to any conclusions. And I use Candace Owens as the example here because whether people like it or not, she is the prime mover in this space that we're talking about. Like when it comes to the Charlie Kirk investigation, the biggest name in this right now is Candace Owens. You have done investigative work. Other people have as well. Baron Coleman is another who has done investigative work. When you single out one of the details with regard to the circumstantial evidence web, yes, you could probably debunk things here and there, or not even debunk, but you can discount the level of seriousness that if one instance on its own, if that was the only one that existed, you could discount that and be like, oh, okay, that's an irregularity, but it's not a big deal given the fact that there aren't that many other irregularities and we have a rock solid case when it comes to the official narrative.
You got to establish facts first. Right.
The facts and the evidence that irregularities did occur do exist. And here's the thing. You can call them stupid. You can call them idiotic. Other people do not share in that opinion. Your opinion is that some of the claims that Candace has made are stupid. I am of the opinion that I think some of the claims that Candace has made are valid and they are valuable to an alternative explanation as to if Tyler Robinson was not on the roof and did not take the shot, then who did? And we need to look into it.
Okay.
We have data points that I think are certainly relevant. We have the 30-06 and the location. There is no evidence or proof that Tyler Robinson was the individual on the roof that took the shot from the 30-06.
That's not true. That's a lie.
It is true. It is true.
No, it's not. It's a lie because
there is no evidence that we have been presented. Let me get the language right. There is no evidence that we have been presented that puts Tyler Robinson himself on that rooftop.
But there is evidence that exists. Candace Owens does not have any.
We have not received. We have not received that evidence. We, as in the public, have not received that evidence. You are speculating that evidence exists based on your conversations with attorneys that would tell you this evidence probably does exist and we would see this in the courtroom. That's going to be great. I'm very much looking forward to that. We also have doubt that the gun itself, from the angle that it was shot from, and we never got into Chris Martinson's argument here, the cavitation effect shows this is what I thought was actually very good justification that Charlie was in fact shot from the front. In that cavitation effect, it works almost the exact same way. The way that he kind of goes back and his back billows up and it kind of it expands his chest. I thought it was a very good argument for a high-powered rifle coming in from the front.
Sure.
Chris Martinson believes that a 30-06 could have been used, but not from the angle of the roof, in that we know, according to evidence, that it struck, I believe, the C4 vertebrae, I believe is what it hit. So in order for that angle from that roof to hit that vertebrae and to hit that chest cavity, that would have prevented an exit wound, which can happen, as you know, as a military man. I've got a really good friend who's an ex-Green Beret, many tours, who said, like, look, if that hits bone and solid bone, then there is a chance that it could not pass through. Right. So I get that. That's a data point that I'm logging in my head. But when you Chris Martinson's argument, which I think is valid, is that if you take the angle too low, it doesn't hit the chest cavity and you're dealing with soft neck tissue, which would significantly decrease the likelihood that an exit wound would not occur. So again, we have the doubts about the 30-06, which I think are valid. And then we have the shot angle, which means that Chris Martinson, just let me finish the one more thing. And then Chris Martinson's argument is that the shot then must have come, if it was from a 30-06, from somewhere else, or it was taken with a different weapon. And this is where we get into, okay, if then what can we look at? What evidence can we find, or what can we investigate if it's up to the investigative authorities to look into this further if Tyler Robinson, in fact, did not take it? And that is the push. Like, that is the public pressure push that I feel like we do have to do, given the fact that our government, and this is proven fact, that our government has lied to us about so many of these things in the past, whether it be COVID, the COVID vaccine, the lab leak theory. We have Butler, Pennsylvania, when the FBI told us that Thomas Crooks had no footprint whatsoever. And then Tucker Carlson, an investigative journalist, finds that he did. It's like, okay, well, thanks to Tucker Carlson for not believing the Fed slop about the Butler case, so that he could find out what the actual truth was. And we still don't have answers as far as that goes. And then now here we are in the Charlie Kirk investigation, dealing with irregularities that have a lot of people concerned. And here we are, a lot of the people who are expressing these concerns or do not believe the charge documents or the mainstream narrative, all these things that we've been talking about here today. I'll challenge you, Gary. You will call us conspiratards for not actually believing or going along with the mainstream media and the mainstream narrative. And I do not think that is fair, nor do I think it's responsible, given what we have been through as a people and as a country. Our government and our authorities and the state authorities, they will lie to us. They will try to make this probably as easy and as a slam dunk case as possible for them.
Okay.
Joe Kent, I think, has done a good job, and you can disagree with Joe Kent, but he has come out and he has validated these arguments for a lot of people. This is a high-ranking government official who has validated a lot of the arguments, or at least the perspective and the opinions that a lot of people have on the other side, I guess you can say.
Instead of just going through, let's address those one-on-one, and I will go through all of that with you. All right, so going back, though, we have the French Foreign Legion. We have Israel. We have
leave the French Foreign Legion.
Listen, I'm going to ask you a question. Do we have any evidence that was involved? Like, because that's a huge claim. We need a lot of evidence to believe it, and it's your responsibility to provide that evidence, which Candace Owens hasn't. Not one bit of evidence. We haven't even seen a document that supports that.
Would you agree? Okay, it's not the job of Candace Owens to solve this investigation.
No, it's the job
Candace
of
Owens.
If she makes claims, it is her job to support them with evidence, not to confuse people, not to say that X, Y, and Z is guilty of murder without any evidence. That is immoral. That's wrong. It's irresponsible. You can't.
Would you agree?
Claim anything.
Would you agree that
you know what?
Would you agree that Candace Owens has a wide reach and has many, many sources that can feed her information?
That's fine. Then provide us the evidence of that.
Whether it's true or not, do you agree that Candace Owens has a wide reach and a lot of influence and a lot of tips that could come in to her?
I have a wide reach. I can have tips that come in all the time. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to regurgitate those tips because it could be somebody that is a maligned actor. I'm not going to just put out information because I have information.
You should absolutely vet. You should absolutely vet the tips to ensure that they are legitimate before you put them out to the public. I totally agree.
Provide you evidence, because if that's what she's doing, then she's doing something that's worse than what MSNBC did. She's doing something worse than what CNN did. She is creating a narrative. She's not providing any evidence, and she's confusing. And by the way, she says, "Hey, the French took a shot at somebody." Like, that's an act of potential war. She has no evidence of it, and then she says,
"Yes." I would be very concerned that this is bigger than Tyler Robinson, and that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was an act of war. And if that is the case, I want to know the full truth about that. I don't want the government to cover it up for our own good, or to protect the status quo, or to prevent us from having to engage in an actual conflict because they went after an American citizen. I don't want to be shielded from this important information. I want to know the full truth so that we can move forward in truth. And if that is part of this information, if that's a part of this investigation, then Gary, you would agree we certainly do not want that covered up. And do you think that those in power, given their track record, may cover that up if the implications or the consequences were very large like that?
What I'll say is the implications are huge is when we have American people accepting narratives without zero proof. That is setting the American people up for disinformation to be manipulated like we've never had. And then here you are defending that. When we
are accepting that Tyler Robinson is guilty with no proof.
I am not accepting Tyler Robinson is guilty. I'm saying, hey, here's where I'll be with you, Zach. I will be with you all over this stuff. I will, the day that this is put out, if this evidence doesn't show up in court, or we find out that, you know what, I'll tell you right now, I am with you 100%. If we show up to court and come to find out, or later on somebody says it, or they actually talk to somebody, if his parents come out and say, hey, you know what, I actually didn't say any of that stuff, I'm like, that's all it would take for me. That's all. Like, if his parents come out and say, I did not say that my son was guilty of these things. And let me tell you something, if the parents did believe that, they would be out in front of cameras right now. They would. I would. I don't care what it would take. I don't care what lawyer tried to tell me that I shouldn't do that. I'd be like, my son, I'd be every single day. I'd be broadcasting that from my jail cell, because what we have is Candace Owens claimed that the French Foreign Legion also were coming to kill her, and she presented zero evidence. We didn't even get evidence of emails going to any sort of investigative body. Like, at least just let me know that you actually sent them an email. Let me see a return of that. Provide that to me. I'll buy that, actually. Because what I can tell you is that it is illegal to actually call the FBI and say, hey, I got this information. Now, they may look at the information and be like, that's bullshit information.
Cool,
like,
sure. Yeah, she could have received a bad tip that the French government was coming after her, that she took seriously, that she submitted to the FBI. That could have happened. And I think, but there's a lot of us here who are listening to what Candace Owens has to say, and there are a lot of people listening to what Candace Owens has to say, whether you like her or not, or whether you think what she is doing is evil, or whether you think what she's doing is valuable. But at the same time, if there are people who, even in Candace's audience, like, I know you guys like to use the condescending terms as far as like the candy cult goes.
You know what condescending terms that you guys like to use? You like to use Fed. You like to use traitor. You like to use Fed slop. You like to use paid by Israel. Dude, I did 4 combat tours.
I used the word Fed slop one time in this conversation
for this country, and I got people over in the chat right now saying that I'm a traitor. Fuck you. Like, I have given so much for this country, you don't even know. I love this country more than anything. And for you to sit there and say that I'm a traitor to my country because you disagree with me. And by the way, I actually have evidence to back what I say. What you have to say is, you know what? We're just asking questions. We're just open to different ideas, because that's what you've presented to me so far. We're just open to different ideas. And like, we're just looking at this because we don't believe this, even though there's evidence for that. I'm just opening up to the ideas. And if you say, hey, look, this is evidence, which is the most logical stance in all of this. This is what the evidence says. Your response to me is, you're a Fed. You've betrayed your country. You're paid by Israel. So I don't want to hear about candy cultists. I don't want to hear about conspiratards. That's pretty minor than questioning my loyalty to this country.
Matt.
So there's that. All right, where do you want to move?
My mic is muted. My mic was muted. I couldn't respond to that.
Gotcha.
Gary, have I accused you of those things here in this conversation?
No.
Like, are you saying, when you say you, are you saying that I'm doing that?
I see people in the chat. Dude, I get it all the time. It's like, I'll have 50 comments of something. I could make a post of something factually true to the point you can't even disprove it. But then I will be hit with Fed, you're paid by Israel, you're owned by TPUSA. Like, bro, nobody owns me.
I don't have much time left, but I think we could probably go for maybe about 10 more minutes. What I do want to bring up are the irregularities that Candace Owens has found that I do feel are legit. And yes, there are many of us here in the audience that are certainly wondering.
I don't even want to hear about the irregularities. I want to hear what evidence she has of one single material claim. Like, that's all.
Why would you not want to hear that?
I want one piece.
Why would you not want to hear that, though? Like, why would you just want to close yourself off to not hearing what the alternative theories are?
Because if you believe something without evidence, you're in a religion and you're in a cult, and you're not a logical, reasonable person. You are abandoning reason and logic, like what our Western society was founded on.
There are evidence of, so you don't consider the evidence of foreign planes, those Egyptian planes, which I understand a lot of people just like to be like, oh my gosh, it's a conspiracy. The reality is there were two Egyptian planes that were in Provo on the ground that dumped military contractors into Provo.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
And one or two of these military planes, I'll make one more point.
Okay.
One or two of these military planes, these Egyptian military planes, performed a low-level surveillance of and around the UVU campus before the day of, I believe, that Charlie was assassinated. That is highly irregular activity, and this is an example of a piece of evidence that is irregular about things going on that day. If it's not, then then come out with a statement. Then the FBI or the investigative authorities can easily come out with a statement and say, this is what was going on. This is not irregular. This is why we are not and you might say, well, it's not up to the FBI to justify itself to you or the public. And I would argue that at this point, we are in a state in this country where, I think that it is. I think that the FBI should be clarifying some of these things and some of these questions and some of this evidence that is coming out about irregularities on that day. And I understand that many on your side will say, oh, the Egyptian planes, it's a hoax. As soon as that word comes off,
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say any of that.
And people don't even listen to what actually occurred that day.
Hold on, because you're stating some things that are not factual as facts. Number one, you're like, hey, there's some Egyptian planes there. Okay,
there were two specifically.
That is a fact.
Two specifically with the tail numbers. That is a fact.
Just hush for a second. How many foreign planes are in the U.S. at any one time?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Around 5,500 according to Grok. All right, that's where I got that source. You guys can get that. 5,500 foreign planes. Any one of those foreign planes could be dropping off some sort of freaking deep state, freaking military operative in any given place at any given time. Let's talk about your plane specifically. You just stated that Egyptian planes flew in, military Egyptian planes no less. Egyptian planes flew in, and two military contractors got off of that plane.
No. It was a group. It was multiple.
Okay.
And did not return on that plane. Yes.
Multiple military contractors got off that plane.
Yes.
How do you know they're military contractors?
So I believe that the status or the status of those individuals or wherever they came from, I believe confirms that they were military contractors.
Where's the evidence of that? Because I've looked for stuff like that. I have never seen evidence of that. Okay, and let's go a step further. Let's seed your point. Let's say they're military contractors. It's not an established fact. It's actually bullshit that we just repeat. It's language being used. It's language being used. What's that?
Mike keep getting muted.
Yeah. Sorry,
Do you have proof that those were not military contractors? Because you said that it's bullshit. So I'm asking you in good faith. Do you have proof that they're not military contractors?
Do you have proof that I didn't see Bigfoot?
Gary. Okay.
It's so illogical for you to say that. Like you have abandoned reason and logic. When you sit there and say, do you have proof that they're not? I don't have proof that they're not Bigfoot. They could have all been Bigfoot. I don't have proof that they're not aliens. I don't have proof that they're not freaking Iranian ninjas. I don't have proof of any of that. I'm not the one claiming that. You're claiming that they're military contractors. Now let's say that they are. Let's see your point.
The plane specifically. The plane is registered as an Egyptian military plane that transports those like individuals. If you are a private citizen, or again, these are not private planes. These are planes that carry certain individuals on them. Dude, if I am wrong and these are not military individuals, I'm open to being wrong. But
can it be a military plane and not have military contractors? And then we're going to go through the military contractor claim to begin with. Can it not be military contractors? Because guess what? Civilians, politicians, and everybody else fly on military jets all the time.
Yeah.
Let's see your point.
Sure.
They're military contractors.
Yeah.
Military contractors.
Yep.
What the hell does that mean? Are they mechanics? Like, do you know how many MOSs are in the military? That's your job title. Like, how many vocations?
I think it's just the data. It's a data point that people who are exploring the alternate theories are pursuing.
Trained assassins. That's where you're going with it. You know, you're putting that in there. You don't know that they're military contractors, but what you're trying to say is that these are assassins.
Now you're putting words in my mouth.
That's what you're alluding to. You know it. When you say military contractor,
what it comes down to is that if an Egyptian military plane carrying some level or some form of military contractors or whatever you want to label them, I mean, we don't know. That's the point. We don't know. Dumped or left these individuals, a group of these individuals in Provo, Utah, the week prior to the investigation. Into the assassination. And what we also know is that they pinged multiple Israeli cell phones around the event, around the assassination event. So we know that there are and were Israeli cell phones. And I'm only using this because this is what the evidence that is coming out has said. And all that I'm saying, because then as you just relate this to Joe Kent and what he has come out and said, in that there are leads that he feels as though should have been pursued that the FBI and Kash Patel shut down and decided not to. Kash Patel probably aligns with you and thinks that the leads are bullshit.
No, hold on.
Can I just make one more point? Is like one second. Kash Patel, like you, the argument would be he thinks the leads are bullshit. He thinks they mean nothing. Joe Kent, from his position, who was responsible for gathering and analyzing the data that he was presenting to Kash Patel, not investigating. I understand what Joe Kent's job was, although they did give him access to the investigation. So that's interesting for a short period of time. And then Kash Patel found out about it and he wasn't happy about it. But in any case, Joe Kent believes that those leads should have been pursued. And he even admitted on the Sean Ryan show, I know you watched it, he said that those leads could be bogus. But the fact that they did not look into them is extremely concerning, just given the day and age that we live in. Like that's where I'm at with it. Like they could be wrong. They could be bullshit. But as far as everything Candace Owens is presenting, because she is the one that presented that information, and then Baron Coleman has done a really good job in verifying the flights and where they were coming from, like looking at flight data and seeing where these planes were going and the altitude of them. All really interesting. Like the whole point is that, look, if Tyler Robinson was not the one on the roof, and we talked about the reasonable doubt that justifies, I would say, some of the things that I'm talking about here, then we are going to look into the alternative theories and see what these other irregularities are, which I think is a worthy pursuit. Some people might say it's bullshit. Other people think that it's valid. And I'm just on the side that I think is that thinks it's valid, I guess, like is what it comes down to.
Just because there are billions of possibilities, and there's billions of possibilities, and because we don't track down every one of those billion possibilities, doesn't make the case they have untrue. We do not know if those were actually military contractors. There is no evidence of that. I will be happy to correct the record if you can provide me evidence that was actually military contractors. If they are military contractors, then I don't know if those are not plane technicians. I don't know if they're computer people. There is, as a matter of fact, I just pulled this up, just within the U.S. Army, there is at least 300 to 500 distinct occupations. Very few of those are combat arms, very few. And just because you tell me, it's like, hey, you know what? I find, like, let's say you find me over a dead body, and I got a knife in my hand. I'm over the dead body. There's blood on me. And then you're like, Gary's guilty. And I say, no. Like 3 doors down, there's another guy that was actually convicted of murder. So it's actually him. Like, well, number one, we have no probable cause. That's a claim. We don't have any evidence to say, even though that he did that, even though he's capable of that, there's no claim here. Like, your prints are here, you're over the dead body. Like, and then I could say, guess what? There's 500 murderers just within my own town. It could be one of them. Like, well, no, there's no evidence that any of those people were involved. It's a data point. It's a possibility, but there's no evidence. And again, like you don't care about evidence. Your entire side doesn't care about evidence. You're like, well, like we just need to it's like a bunch of hippies conducting an investigation. Like, well, what if this?
No, I think that our side cares more about finding all of the legitimate evidence relating to the Charlie Kirk case.
That's the problem, is it's not legitimate. If it's not real,
then prove it wrong. Like that's what. Then I think that's the whole point. It's
No,
like instead of turning around and calling us retarded, or instead of turning around and calling us conspirators, like just prove it wrong. If it's bullshit, it should be very easy to prove wrong. The bad theories that get put out there, they're fairly easy to prove wrong. So again, like we're allowed to be wrong. This is America. We have free speech. You are allowed to be wrong.
Some people
I get that, but
do you know how
we need an open source investigation. I think, given everything that we've been through. I mean, I've said that many times.
Do you know how I can potentially trick you and ensure that you can never prove me wrong?
How?
Making a claim and presenting no evidence. There is no way that you could ever prove me wrong that I didn't see Bigfoot. You can't do it. There is no way that I can potentially right now prove that French Foreign Legion weren't here to kill Charlie Kirk, because I've never seen any evidence that I can go through and actually prosecute. When we just accept claims with
no evidence, and neither do you, to prosecute or convict Tyler Robinson.
The state of Utah does. And we do
have Utah
evidence.
says that they do. The state of Utah published in a charging document that they do. They've put out in news conferences that they do. But again, that's you taking the state at their word. And I am not willing to do that.
I'm not just taking them at their word. I'm not. We actually have evidence. We know through
you have no evidence that Tyler Robinson was the one on that rooftop.
We know that Tyler Robinson was at UVU when he should have been home 3.5 hours away. We know that. There's evidence of that.
There were many students and visitors that were there that day that traveled from their homes that were on that campus that day to see Charlie.
And under your philosophy and your logic, we should investigate all of them just because they were there. Like just let's just do a 1,000-year investigation, and we should go through and dissect. And not only should we investigate them
again,
we should do it publicly.
Again, you're insulting the intelligence and the rationality of your opposing side. Nope. We don't think that. We don't think that. Why not? There are people. Our side believes Tyler Robinson was involved in some way because his grandfather's gun was on the scene. There's DNA evidence that Tyler Robinson was there. There's camera and video evidence that Tyler Robinson was there. So obviously Tyler Robinson and the level of sketchiness of Tyler Robinson is significantly higher than many of the other people that were at the event that day. So it's not fair for you to say, like, let's look at everybody. Like, we're not. Again, I reject the premise that our side has no rational discernment ability whatsoever. And this is, I feel like, where we get in trouble.
Let's go back to the Israeli phones. You said there were Israeli phones, Israeli phones that were detected there at UVU.
Allegedly, yeah, allegedly there were.
Sure. How many of them were there?
I don't know the exact number. I believe that number is 12. I believe.
I think that's what I saw as well. So there's that. So the way that we determine if something is unusual is we compare it to what normal is, and then we take, because this is how this matrix works. If you want to figure out if something is suspicious, it's usually unusual or odd behavior that stands out. So the first thing that we have to know is a baseline of information. What does normal look like? And then what we do is like, oh, over here outside of normal, I see 3-4 different things that look weird, that look suspicious, or just look weird. But out of those 3 things, there's only one thing that looks like it could be a threat to me or others. So now I've used this matrix to wean down and to filter through and say, hey, this is actually suspicious. So my first question would be, if somebody's like, oh my God, there's 12 Israeli phones. Okay. How many Israeli phones are on UVU campus on a normal day? I bet the number's not 0. I mean, the average number might be 15. But you're like, that's a data point. Okay, well, it's not a data point without more data.
100%. And again, when we're talking about the circumstantial evidence web, when you look at one individual thing, like the fact that there were 12 cell phones there that were registered or had Israeli, I don't know, locations or whatever it is within them, and then you couple that with the Egyptian planes that had flew into Provo prior to, and then immediately after Charlie was assassinated.
Well, the
transponders came on at individually unique times that were that corresponded, I guess you can say, with the timing of the assassination, the morning of, and then I believe after, once it landed. And then you have the surveillance planes that were going around and flying low right by UVU. Like, again, when you take into account the number of irregularities and circumstantial evidence, it then starts to create a web, which is what I'm talking about here, that I just believe needs to be taken seriously. That's all that I'm saying. Like, and again, it's my opinion that it should be taken seriously. You might think that I'm an idiot for thinking that, and that's fine. You know what? Like, I'm fine being called an idiot. I'm fine for you thinking that I'm stupid. But ultimately, what it comes down to it is that I feel like it's legit and I feel like it's valid, and I feel like this is a large portion of what Candace Owens has brought to the table, and a lot of these alternative investigators, which I would say, thank God for people like them who have the balls to go at this, knowing that they're going to get persecuted and dragged through the mud and slandered and diagnosed for it, because it's the same people that we're thankful for during COVID. It's the same people, like, thank Tucker Carlson for finding the evidence.
Hold on. There is no equivalency. That is a false equivalency, talking about people with COVID and calling out COVID versus Candace Owens. And I'll tell you why.
Election interference, that's another one. Another we could throw in there. All these things that they accuse people of being conspiracy theorists for. January 6th, and saying that there were the FBI wasn't involved in it at all, only to find that there actually were plainclothes agents in the crowd. Like, these were all conspiracies. These were all conspiracy theories for such a long time until they ended up being true.
Zach, the difference, because I believe those conspiracies too. Do you know why I believe them? Because there was evidence. I believe that it was a conspiracy of COVID because when they tell me, hey, you know what? If you take the jab, you're not going to get COVID, and you're not going to be able to spread it. And I see, oh, look, he took the jab, he spread it, he got it. Oh, that's a lie. Oh, by the way, you need to put this mask on. Well, I looked at this mask and it's like, it only covers down to like 3 microns, whereas, actual virus is 1 micron. It does nothing. Oh, well, that's
were you called a retard by you would say the establishment side during those phases, and you ended up being right? So are you worried? Are you worried or concerned?
Argument.
Are you worried or concerned that you are
wrong?
Are you worried or concerned that you might be on the wrong side of this one?
No, I'm not, because I have evidence, and there's like, unless you present to me evidence that overcomes this and all the other things that we know, I'm going to be right, because we are going to have a trial and you're going to be presented with all this evidence. And the only thing that the side of you people are on, are you're going to be able to say it's all fake. And you will, not you necessarily, but many people like, oh, they created it all. It's all fake. It's not real. The parents I literally debated somebody last night. He said the parents are in on it. The defense team's in on it. Kash Patel's in on it. Trump's in on it. Like, thousands of people are in on this thing. And you're just going to completely dismiss, because the other thing that we always heard is like, nope, Tyler Robinson isn't going to make it to the trial. He's going to be killed, which is actually logical. Like, if you have this conspiracy, why keep him around? Why not kill him? Why did they find Robinson alive if this is some big conspiracy? Put him in a car, make it look like he, unalived himself, and then complete the picture. Like,
like a JFK or like an Epstein files type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, okay.
Like, this shit happens. Like, I think that's just the whole point. And I guess when it comes down to it for me, like, here's the thing. Like, you said that when all this comes out, I will be right. And I guess that's where, with you, and also too, like with Andrew Wilson, like, I guess my argument is like, I don't care if I'm right. Like, but I'm not trying to assert any conclusion in this conversation or from this entire investigation in general. Like, I just think it's important to look at all angles. And one of the things that has just driven me crazy with regard to Candace Owens in particular is the fact that early on, she was coming out with very, what I thought, good and valuable, truthful information. And the attacks and the slander that took place early on against her were completely unfair and completely made up. There was legitimately a coordinated attempt to slander every word that was coming out of her mouth at the time. And that's actually caused me to actually pay attention to what she was saying, because her claims were proven to be true. Her claims were proven to be true during that time. And there were individuals who were just trying to slander and shut her down for the things that she was saying.
Does Candace Owens have an impact, and do you have an impact on the way that people perceive the world and determine what truth, just truth and like even the political trajectory of this country?
Yeah, I think every person does to some extent. Yeah.
So therefore, I agree. And I agree that people are going to be impacted by what I say. And so for us to just say, like, we can just come up with all this stuff that has no evidence, we put that out, you are going to end up brainwashing people. Even because here's the thing, there might have been people that's, whatever it is, like Candace can say something today and she didn't back that up with any sort of facts. It could be completely wrong. And then she changes her mind or even puts out a mea culpa later on. But these people are impacted because it was, and whatever they believe, like, I don't know, like maybe she told them they shouldn't vote. And then later on, she changes that. Well, like she had a duty and responsibility to fact check this stuff, to make sure that it's backed by evidence before you just put it out there. And what your claim is like, I'm thankful that people are just putting out confusing information.
Not my opinion. No. I don't think all information is helpful with regard to this. I don't. There's been some bad information that I think has been harmful. And I'll see, like, our side, I would say that there are examples of that.
Okay. I mean, there's numerous examples of that.
Yes, I agree with you.
Now that we've moved to, well, I don't know, I'm gonna get to that. Let's open up a whole other can of worms politically. But the fact is like, people should care about how factual, and the way that we determine whether or not something is factual is we back it by evidence. And the idea that we could just claim like, oh, because this is the logical leap, because there was a Egyptian plane and there were people that got off the Egyptian plane, now I think that they actually killed Charlie Kirk. Like, that is a dumb, freaking illogical leap to conclusion without any additional information. It's freaking retarded. Like, now, if you have additional information, like, no. I saw them put on a ghillie suit and I saw them wearing clothes and I tracked them over there. Then we have something to talk about, because that's not the only plane that landed. That's not the only people that came from out of town. There might have been 5 Iranians that showed up that day. And guess what? We should investigate them, but we don't even know about them. But because the data points out there, like, but it doesn't change anything. Even if those Egyptian planes were there, even if those Egyptian planes were military contractors, from your mind, you're like, that is really suspicious. No, it's not suspicious, because it probably happens all the time. There's Egyptian people and Egyptian planes in this country all the time. And just because they happen to be over here that is a data point. It's not even correlation. It's definitely not causation.
What doesn't happen every day is,
I don't know.
What doesn't happen every day is the assassination of a high-profile political figure whose opinion and whose influence has tremendous impact on the youth of America. So that is something that does not happen every day. And then when you have these irregularities that occur around this event, everything is worth looking into, as far as I'm concerned, with regard to this.
So what's the limit? And how do you determine everything?
The limit would be the lead ends up to be false or has nothing to do with the assassination. Like, for example, the hatch underneath. It looks extremely unlikely that any assassin popped up under the hatch and shot Charlie Kirk. Would you agree?
Underneath.
Would you agree? I don't know if it was underneath. Would you agree that Would you agree that it was weird that the patio and the crime scene was covered up fairly quickly right after? You would think that after a high-profile assassination, they would leave that just kind of set for a while. I understand UVU wants to get back to business, but they also just failed to protect Charlie Kirk. So I feel like you kind of lose the right to get back to business.
Let me counter that. Because here's what could have happened. Can we agree that there was blood that was in the sod on that grass?
I
have pictures of it.
Maybe there was. Okay.
Definitely blood in the grass.
If you have a picture, then I've never seen those pictures, so I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that question.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you. Like, it's reasonable to assume that there was blood in the grass, right?
Yeah, the only reason I hesitate there is because, like, it's not like there was that much blood, which I understand. I watched your method of how they plugged it, whatever. Like, I don't know where the blood went from there. So
what they would have to do, and would be standard operating procedure every time, is they would have to cut that blood out of the grass. All right. And they could have not They could have and by the way, it was the school. And just so we're clear of what happened.
Yeah, for
So
environmental
FBI
reasons and health reasons and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the FBI and Utah State, and I confirmed this with people on the ground. They secured that entire location. They had all of UVU completely locked down for 3 days straight, large teams working there 24/7 to process that scene. Once the FBI and the state of Utah determined that they had collected all forensic evidence possible and they were done with that, they turn it back over to UVU. UVU was the one that determined that they were going to redo that area. They would have had to have cut grass out of there for sure. Now, number one, just if they had just cut the grass out, just that, what your side would be saying is they removed evidence. All right. And on top of that, like, what do you want?
I would say they're collecting evidence, but all right. I mean,
even if it wasn't involved in evidence whatsoever, I don't think that the FBI, like, I'm sure there was some blood and things like that was around that area. There's probably some spatter and things like that UVU might be concerned about. I don't know. But
these agencies have the ability. They have PR teams that can literally clarify these things. Like if it's like, oh, we cut out a piece of the side because there was blood on it and we needed to investigate that. People
I'm not even saying. Look, if
we don't get that level of openness, we get bullshit statements instead. No, all right, go ahead.
If there's a homicide in your house and there is biological material all over the place, all right, whoever is going to come investigate that. Are they responsible for cleaning up the mess? No, it's going to be UVU. So there could potentially be like, oh, blood, other things like that they have to get up and get out of there for biological reasons, just clean up. Like there's going to be some difference to that scene. The other thing that I wouldn't want and you wouldn't want is like the FBI and SBI, Utah SBI came here. They did a forensic analysis. What I don't want is you and Gary and Candace Owens out there with a freaking metal detector 24/7, pretending that we have some sort of investigatory authority and ability. Is that what you want? Is that what they should have done? They should have left it open so everybody that thinks they're a freaking sleuth should come out there and pull up grass and look for, like, oh, I found a piece of metal. Oh, I found a piece of metal. This must be a bullet. This must be something else. Like, you're just opening the door.
You're the one that went to UVU, not me. So
I'm with you. And guess what?
The FBI has the ability to block off the crime scene. Like they can be like, all right, we're gonna send guys there. Nobody's accessing this. They can shut off access to it. You know this, and
it was still access was still shut off. When I went there, that the entire paved area was roped off. But it's not unreasonable to say, you know what? We got to cut up some sod anyhow. They're all done with the investigation. Nobody should be over here investigating. There's nothing left. It's been completely processed by actual professionals that have been given and granted the authority to do that. And so, you know what? We're just going to remake the scene a little bit so it's not so traumatic for everybody else. That's reasonable. I mean, that is completely reasonable. If I had blood all over my wall because of a homicide, you know what? Not only am I going to cut all that stuff out, but I'm probably going to put a different paint, a coat of paint, and may do a little remodeling so it's not as traumatic for me. Like, it's completely reasonable. You can point to it and you can say they shouldn't have done that. Well, yeah, they should have. You would have done that. If there was some high-profile crime that took place in your yard and you thought that people were going to come over here and pretend that they're detectives, every wine mom out there like, oh, yeah, I'm part of the Candace investigation agency. I need access to your yard, and I need to get in here and look through here. I brought, a metal detector and a shovel and a sifter, an entire team of people. Like, it's to say that that's unreasonable is ridiculous. You can have the argument, well, maybe they covered up evidence. Okay, fine. But to pretend like hair's on fire, freaking out like, oh my God, they corrupted the scene. No, the scene was done. Everybody that was going to collect actual evidence has been there.
When you have a high profile assassination, okay, you're making the argument, it's of your opinion that it wasn't within a reasonable time frame that they cleaned up the scene. I'm looking at a high profile assassination with irregularities, which the former director of national counterterrorism just said could have potentially had foreign links that I don't think justified a 3-day cleanup with regard to the crime.
He didn't say that.
He said there were leads that needed to be pursued regarding a potential foreign nexus or involvement.
He has said nothing about the investigation itself. That He has not alluded to that.
No, Tyler Robinson for no, he hasn't.
He hasn't alluded that Tyler Robinson isn't guilty. He hasn't alluded to any bad detective work. He hasn't alluded. What he said is there were other things that we could pursue.
Leads that should have been pursued. Leads that should have been pursued. Yeah,
sure. And guess what? He's not in charge of investigations.
He's in charge of gathering the intelligence and the evidence to present to the FBI to point them in the right direction.
Sure.
So I think it's even worse that you have the investigative authority that receives the information, the intelligence from their party responsible for finding it, and then saying that they're not going to pursue it because they think it's irrelevant.
He's never even stated
that as a problem.
That it was any sort. He said, it could be one of those things where 99 of these leads don't pan out.
Yes, he did say that.
So, and the other part of this is
root it all out, turn over every stone. Let's find the truth about what's going on. That's what I want, man.
Every stone. We're gonna turn over every stone.
Every necessary stone.
And the way that you determine what's necessary is by evidence.
The way you determine what's necessary is through an investigation.
Every data point, then the investigation is 10,000 years long. Everyone this could have happened.
You investigate relevant leads, Gary, and you determine whether or not those leads turn up more evidence. The concern that many of us have is that the investigations are not happening. They're not happening to the extent that they should, and therefore the evidence that is required is not being produced.
You don't know.
Again, this is my problem with Andrew Wilson. He was like, "Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence." It's like, dude, we're talking about lack of investigation. We are talking about lack of investigation, or we're talking about evidence that will not be disclosed because it's tied up and classified, as the Epstein files are, as all of these different things that it's classified. You guys aren't allowed to see any of this stuff, and it's just a freaking cover up for criminal activity.
Who's going to see the evidence? All of it. The jury.
I hope so. Oh my gosh, I hope so.
All of the evidence is going to be seen by the defense attorneys. Now, one thing I
also hope they call in Joe Kent to testify and say that not all the leads were pursued. I hope that they do.
They won't, because he's not even relevant to this. And here's why he's not relevant to this. Just because I got somebody that's over here doing this job, because he has some sort of intelligence that piques his interest, he has something that comes in, and he hands it off to the people that are actually doing the investigation. Like,
what was Joe Kent's job? What was Joe Kent's job as far as his role?
His job was to oversee the National Counterterrorism Center. That's what his job was.
And what is the job of the National? What is the job of the NCTC? What is the job of the NCTC?
It's not to investigate.
It's to gather and analyze the intelligence and to give the investigative authorities direction on where they're supposed to go. That is exactly the definition of what they are supposed to be doing.
Well, yes, he can give them direction if he wants. That's not true. His job is to analyze.
Look up the definition.
To disseminate the information to the people actually doing the investigation, and then they determine whether or not they want to use this, incorporate it, whatever else. If they decide not to, that's none of Joe's business.
Sure.
Like, Joe is so worried about doing everybody else's job.
It is Joe's business. It is Joe's business. If he thinks the leads are worth pursuing and Kash Patel says they're not, it's a fundamental disagreement.
No,
it's a fundamental disagreement. And what I don't appreciate is people on your side being like, oh, well, Joe Kent had stupid information. Joe Kent's like, I didn't have stupid information. I thought we had relevant information to the case that should have been pursued.
Do you know what Joe Kent also thinks?
Joe Kent had access to the investigation, and that pissed Kash Patel off. So he did have some investigative authority with regard to the Charlie Kirk assassination.
He did not have investigative authority.
They gave him access to the investigation, Gary.
Okay, if I give you access to it, if I give you my folder and I said, hey, look, check out this, does that mean that I give you the ability to go investigate?
It gives you ability to see what is being investigated.
So
it gives you ability to see what's being investigated.
If a homicide detective comes in today and says, Gary, take a look at this. I'm giving you access to this. I'm like, oh, you know what? I see a lead here. I want to go pursue. And I was like, or I say, Mr. Investigator, you should go pursue. Yeah. Well, Gary, this isn't your job. Yeah, but you know what? You need to go pursue that because I think you need to go pursue that.
Yeah.
If you don't pursue that, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit my job, which is counterterrorism. My job is counterterrorism, making sure that this homeland stays safe. But I'm worried about this investigation over here. I'm worried about the Butler investigation over here. I'm worried about the pipe bomb investigation over here. Like, that's not your job.
You know that's not why Joe Kent resigned, though. He resigned over the war in Iran.
Worried about somebody else's job.
He resigned over the war in Iran.
Joe Kent believes that he should be running foreign policy. That's what, like, it's crazy to me. Coming from the military, coming from a fellow Green Beret, when you're so worried about that, you think that you know better than the president of the United States, because he has like literally over 10,000 people that are in that decision-making process. You got everybody from the CIA, the DIA, the NSA, the FBI feeding President Trump intel. It's other intel outside of what Joe Kent may even have a purview to or information on. Then you have the entire DOD. You got like 5,000 staff officers going through all the intelligence, all the information. Then you have military advisors, you have the chief of staff, and there's like 10,000 people that are actually in the decision-making process. And there's this one guy outside the decision-making process is like, you know what? My opinion is better than theirs. I should determine whether or not we should actually go attack Iran. And then on top of that,
you think that Joe Kent is the only person in government that shares his opinions on the war in Iran?
Hold on, he can share his opinion, but
you think that he's the only person that you think he's the only person that has that opinion, though?
It doesn't. You know what? All the other people are being professionals, and they're like, you know what? That isn't my job. My job is to keep the homeland safe. And by the way, there's been 4 terrorist attacks under my watch that I'm clearly failing at this. And maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Is it Lindsey Graham's effing job to travel to Israel to advise Bibi Netanyahu on how to convince President Trump to get into the war? Is that Lindsey Graham's fucking job? I don't think that it is.
The president determines that he should do. It's not outside of his job.
Is it Ted Cruz's job to influence President Trump on his religious belief as to what should be done in the war in the war in Iran on behalf of Israel? I don't think so. So I would argue that I agree with Joe Kent in that he has bad influences in his ears telling him information that the American public is not, it does not want to accept. I believe that one of the very effective voices in President Trump's ear regarding the war in Iran was Charlie Kirk, and he is unfortunately not with us anymore.
Okay, and you know what Charlie Kirk said after Donald Trump struck back in June? He said, you know what? Everything turned out okay. That's my president. He backs me. I'm backing him. That's what he did after that.
Charlie Kirk advocated for.
I'm not going to put things in Charlie Kirk's mouth about this, and neither can you.
Neither am I. Neither am I. We're just going off of. What I can tell you information here.
But what I can
Charlie
tell you,
Kirk. He advised President Trump on Operation Midnight Hammer, and that's what happened. There was no regime change war in Iran. Charlie Kirk was at the White House advising President Trump against regime change in Iran, fighting against the neocons that are in government that were pushing a regime change war in Iran. And this is all, it's all documented. It's all public information. This is what Charlie Kirk was doing at the White House. He was a dissenting voice against the neocons who are now very much in Trump's ear. Like you said that Joe Kent shares this singular opinion. He's the only high-level director in our government with the balls to go against President Trump. Like, in my opinion, that's pretty admirable.
What he did was so unprofessional and so disgraceful objectively. He has a job to do. This is his job. And then he says, you know what? Not only do I disagree with your decisions that the United States people have duly elected you to perform, I'm going to say that I'm quitting. All right. I'm not worried about my job. I'm worried about your job and what you're doing. And then on top of that, what I'm going to say is I'm going to subvert the president of the United States. I'm going to say that I'm quitting publicly, and I'm doing it because President Trump is being directed by Israel. That is so disgusting.
You think
that you're going to say that Iran was not an imminent threat? Also, demonstrably,
nothing that I see. But who am I? I'm just a YouTuber. Suggests that Iran was an imminent threat, and that comes from a few different things. The White House telling us that we had obliterated, then that's a direct quote, Iran's nuclear program back in June with Operation Midnight Hammer.
Nobody said that the nuclear program specifically was the imminent threat, although you can sure as hell make a case for that. They have violated the JCPOA multiple times, and then Joe Kent goes on there and says, well, they have a fatwa. That has been proven that the fatwa don't matter. Like, for Joe Kent to sit there as a fellow Green Beret and say, well, no, they didn't get one because it was a fatwa. He might as well say, well, Gary, you know, they pinky swore. They
Gabbard after we obliterated the Iran's nuclear program, and that's a direct quote from the White House. They accused They accused anybody disagreeing with that as spreading misinformation, that we did not obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Tulsi Gabbard testified in Congress that Iran did not increase any of their enrichment from the time of Operation Midnight Hammer to the time of this war. Our own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and you even admitted this on your show yesterday, said that we had to move because Israel was going to attack. The imminent attack was Israel attacking Iran. He did say that, and you blamed it on bad messaging. So my argument back to you would be like, okay, the truth, I guess you can say, would be bad messaging. If you don't think it's the truth, then you're saying that Marco Rubio lied about what he was telling us.
Let me demonstrate the imminent threat.
What was the imminent threat? Explain to me what it was.
Just a few weeks ago, or just in recent time, all right, we just had a guy convicted and proven that he was actually directed by Iran to actually assassinate the president of the United States. What we also know is that they are funding Hamas. They are funding Hezbollah. They are funding the Quds Force. They are funding everybody out there. And
I understand an imminent threat.
Terrorist attacks.
An imminent threat means it's going to happen. I mean, imminent threat means that it's going to happen, not that it could happen. I'm not some pacifist that thinks America should do nothing. If we have a legitimate imminent threat, we should certainly defend ourselves. If we are attacked, we should certainly respond. That this is in line with the just war doctrine of the Catholic Church to which I ascribe. So again, as long as we are operating within that, I am generally okay with America defending itself, but we have enemies and threats. Enemies and threats. China is an enemy and a threat to the United States. It does not mean that we should go and attack China at this moment. You would have to agree that we are going to have enemies and we are going to have threats. This does not mean that there is a legitimate imminent threat to our country. If you want to argue that there are imminent threats from Iran within our country because of an open border and because we can have different cells or even lone wolf actors fire themselves up, and you consider that an imminent threat which warrants an attack on Iran, I guess that's an argument that you can have, but I would argue that that is not an imminent threat that justifies war and regime change with another country.
That is your opinion. It is not the opinion of Tulsi Gabbard. It's not the opinion of Tulsi Gabbard. It's not the opinion of President Trump. And
what is Tulsi Gabbard's opinion on it? What's Tulsi Gabbard's opinion?
That's all that matters. He is the commander in chief, and if he decided the intelligence tells him, like, you know what, I think there's an imminent threat here. When he gave them the opportunity to come to the negotiation tables, and he said, you got 10 days, and they came back to him and said, we're going to continue doing nuclear enrichment. We're going to continue our weapons program. And he's like, okay, fine. Guess what? We're going to bomb you. We're going to kill you until you're done being dead. Like, that's what's going to happen. And it should be. We cannot afford a world where we have a nuclear armed Iran. We cannot afford that. And it will happen. And I think it's been irresponsible of every president, including President Trump, going back to his first term, to allow them to continue to violate the JCPOA and continue to enrich beyond what they promised, which violates their fatwa, which apparently, Joe Kent thinks is the rule of law. Like, that's gospel. They said a fatwa back in the 2000s. Well, guess what? We know for a fact they violated the JCPOA. They have continued to do nuclear enrichment that can be only used for nuclear weapons. They also lied to us about their intermediate distant ballistic missiles. They said they had no missiles that could go further than 2,000 kilometers. Guess what? They just sent a missile that is 4,000 kilometers far.
Would that hit the United States?
Doesn't matter. You know what it could hit? It could hit. They could target places where we have
Israel. They could hit Israel.
They could hit embassies. They could hit absolutely Americans abroad.
They could hit embassies with any of the type of weapons that they have. Yes, they of course. Any of our enemies could hit embassies around the world. That does
We're
not
talking about any enemy.
That does not make it an imminent threat.
Done that. They have killed thousands of American soldiers using EFPs. They have killed thousands. They have committed atrocities and continue to be the #1 state-sponsored terror. They 90% of our problems in the Middle East is not Israel. 90% of the problems is Iran. They're putting out proxy terrorist organizations all over the place. Most of the problems that we have in the Middle East, if Iran didn't exist, there'd be peace over there. I'm not saying there wouldn't be problems from time to time, but most of what we deal with on a regular basis, and especially what is a threat to life, is Iran. And they've proven it time and time again.
Yeah.
The IRGC is a terrorist organization.
And we dismantled their nuclear program back in June. So,
but guess what? No, we didn't. Hold on. It is.
We did.
know
Gary,
for a fact
Gary,
that they have over.
I really got to
over
get out of here. I
400
really got to get out of here, man. We probably went like 25 minutes over, and I got my son's got a baseball game tonight. I'm coaching, and I got to roll, man. So,
all right. Well, listen, I really appreciate it very much. I think it was a good, productive discussion. Maybe we'll schedule some more, whatever you like. If you'd like to, I'm down with it. Folks, what I'm going to do right now, we'll let Zach go. I'm going to give him some final words, and then I will go through all the super chats and chats, and whether they're his or mine, I will try to answer those and give you my answer. So we'll take care of you there. Zach, the last word to everybody out there.
All right. No, Gary, thanks for having me. I appreciate these tough conversations. As I said on my show yesterday, doing hard things and having hard conversations and really trying to hash this out, I think is important. And hopefully this was valuable for everybody here, whether you agree with me or whether you agree with Gary or disagree with him or disagree with me. Hopefully we can, continue to move forward in good faith and just continue to fight for the truth and a better country and a better world. So I'll leave it at that. Gary, thank you very much for having me. And
it was great to have you on. It was fun. Look, some of my best friends out there, we disagree on everything. And
agreed.
Yeah. So anyways, go have fun. Go spend time with your family. Folks, I'm going to go use the bathroom real quick, and then I will come back and address all of your questions.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks again, Zach. Have a good one, buddy.